Chapter 13:12. Where are you? Ji-Yu-Han touched the jade ring on his finger and muttered to himself in a low voice. He looked like a lunatic. The jade ring didn't answer Gu-Han's question. Instead, it flickered with a green light, which seemed to be guiding Gu-Han. What are you trying to tell me? Ji-Yu-Han took the jade ring off his finger and placed it on his palm. If the soul in here is really your soul, then tell me where you are, he said in a low voice. After saying this, Gu-Han slowly put down his hand that was holding the jade ring. Then, a miraculous scene happened. As Gu-Han put down his hand, the jade ring in his palm didn't fall to the ground. Instead, it quietly floated in the air as if there was a miraculous force holding it up. It's really you. Gu-Han revealed an excited expression. The ring slightly swayed in the air and instantly began to fly in a certain direction. Let's go. Gu-Han immediately followed the jade ring's guidance and chased after it. Gu-Han. Liuyan Ling, who had just sat down, noticed Gu-Han's movement and immediately chased after Gu-Han. What the hell? This guy is really related to that lackey of the heavenly court. Artoria laughed bitterly, but she couldn't let Gu-Han leave just like that. She could only chase after Gu-Han. The three of them flew around Kunlun Mountain. Finally, Gu-Han stopped halfway up the mountain. The jade ring also stopped and quietly floated in front of Gu-Han. Looks like it's here. Ji-Yu-Han faintly smiled, the extinguish immortal sword appeared in his hand, and a sharp sword chi slashed down. Kunlun Mountain was filled with snowflakes. The snowflakes that filled the sky seemed to sweep up the entire world, like a snowstorm. However, this snowstorm wasn't caused by nature. Instead, it was caused by the sword energy released by a human. But the miraculous thing was that such a powerful attack should have caused a huge change in the mountain, which would eventually lead to a disaster like an avalanche. But in fact, other than the area halfway up the mountain, the other areas were unusually quiet and peaceful. There were no changes at all. This also highlighted Gu-Han's terrifying control over his power. As the sky full of snowflakes fell again, a deep black hole appeared in front of everyone. No one knew how deep this black hole was. However, the three people standing at the entrance couldn't see anything inside. All of this represented the unknown. I think it's better not to go down, Artoria said nervously. She could feel a powerful force coming from the depths of this cave. This powerful force was unbearable even for Artoria. It was a force that could destroy heaven and earth. Me too. Before Liuyan Ling could say anything, Gu-Han had already rushed down. Liuyan Ling could only roll her eyes and still rushed down behind Gu-Han. Artoria had no other choice. What else could she say? She rushed down too. The three of them didn't know how long they flew in this cave. They only knew that the originally extremely cold air began to become normal, and then the temperature began to rise gradually. Soon, it exceeded the limit of 50 degrees that humans could survive, and reached a super high temperature of more than 500 degrees. As a normal human, Liuyan Ling was the first to be unable to withstand such a temperature. She had to open her personal shield to isolate the terrible temperature. As for Artoria, there wasn't much change. As a universe rank Yuan Ku, such a temperature was not a small test for Artoria. What Artoria found strange was why Gu-Han was like her. He didn't support his personal shield like his companions. The temperature was still rising. When everyone could see the flowing magma, the temperature had risen to about 3,000 degrees. Liuyan Ling, who was in her personal shield, began to sweat continuously. Even the personal shield could not effectively isolate this problem. Artoria's forehead was also sweating. In fact, Artoria could use the Wind King boundary to isolate the temperature, but at this time, Gu-Han still had no intention of using his personal shield. Therefore, because she was still breathing, Artoria was unwilling to use her Wind King boundary. Fortunately, at this time, this cave had reached a magma river. Instead of continuing to go down, they had to go along this magma river. But because the magma river was right beside them, the temperature rose further to 4,000 degrees. At this time, Artoria could no longer persist and could only support her Wind King boundary. But to Artoria's dismay, Gu-Han still had no intention of using his personal shield. On the other hand, fleeting Timeling's condition had worsened. The temperature had risen to around 500 degrees Celsius, and her clothes were soaking wet. Her clothes were sticking to her body, and her skin could be seen through. Ling, why don't you go up first? Guhan noticed Liuyan Ling's situation and took the initiative to persuade her. You know my personality. What's the point of saying something like that? Liuyan Ling glared at Guhan. I'm just saying. Guhan smiled. His celestial extinguished sword sent out a dozen or so sword auras that firmly surrounded Liuyan Ling. Liuyan Ling instantly felt the temperature around her drop several times, returning to a normal level that she could accept. Who needs your help? Liuyan Ling was even more displeased. But Liuyan Ling had to admit that even Liuyan Ling could not use sword auras to isolate the temperature. Liuyan Ling's swordsmanship was still a little lacking, which made Liuyan Ling extremely displeased. But when she remembered that it was Guhan who helped her, she felt a little warmth. We're here. Right here. Guhan abruptly stopped in his tracks. Only then did everyone discover that they had arrived in a vast expanse of whiteness. But what was incomprehensible was that there was clearly a river of lava behind them that had a temperature of thousands of degrees. How could there be a terrifying world of snowflakes in front of them? On one side was lava, and on the other was a plain of ice. These two extremely opposite environments actually appeared in the same underground world at the same time. The closest location of these two extreme environments was less than 10 centimeters apart. The shore of the lava river was facing the vast expanse of white snowflakes. This was simply beyond the imagination of ordinary people. All right, I don't need your sword auras anymore. Although she did not understand why there was a plain of ice here, Liuyan Ling directly escaped from Guhan's sword auras and rushed into the plain of ice. Oh my god! In the next second, Liuyan Ling jumped back. The temperature of the plain of ice had probably exceeded absolute zero. The moment Liuyan Ling stepped into the plain of ice, she felt as if her blood was about to freeze. This scared Liuyan Ling so much that she jumped back. What had Liuyan Ling not seen before? But this was the first time she had encountered such an extremely cold environment. The unbearably hot environment became so warm at this moment, as if it was a mother's embrace. Let's go. With a wave of Ji Yuhan's hand, thousands of sword auras shot out to form a gigantic barrier that surrounded Artoria, Fleeting Time Lin, and Fleeting Time Lin. Who needs you to care? I can go in myself. Artoria muttered as she tried to rush out of Guhan's sword aura barrier. Don't be stubborn, Guhan shouted at Artoria, and the originally aggressive Artoria immediately softened. Artoria did not know why she softened, but she obediently stopped and followed Guhan's steps into the world of ice. What absolute zero? What a joke, Guhan said with concern. This place is at least 3 times above absolute zero. If Ling did not escape quickly just now, she would have been frozen into an ice sculpture. Even if your Wind King barrier is stronger than our personal shield in terms of temperature isolation, the result would be the same in this temperature. Thank you. Artoria was stunned for a moment, then nodded to express her gratitude. Look, there's someone there, Liuyan Ling suddenly said with great surprise. Following Liuyan Ling's finger, they saw a lonely figure standing at the end of their sight, as if silently waiting for something. Let's go. Ji Yuhan and the other two immediately walked forward, but when they reached the side of the figure, they were shocked to find that it was not a real person, but an ice sculpture, a sculpture of a man that had been carved to the point of being alive. There's more than this one. There are many more ice sculptures inside, Liuyan Ling said with even more surprise. At a glance, there were more and more densely packed ice sculptures lined up at the edge. These ice sculptures wore different clothes and made different movements, looking like a real person at work. But there was one thing that made Liuyan Ling and Artoria more and more flustered. Because these ice sculptures all had the same appearance, all of them were a handsome young man, and this young man looked more and more like Guhan. Guhan, is this person you? Liuyan Ling finally could not hold back the doubts in her heart and took the initiative to ask Guhan. It should be me. Guhan nodded. With the appearance of these ice sculptures, Guhan's guess became more and more certain. Yes, the human swordsman who died here must be her. Although she wanted to ask Guhan for an explanation, Liuyan Ling still suppressed the doubts in her heart and continued to move forward with Guhan. Finally, they saw a small and exquisite igloo made entirely of ice. "Welcome back, husband." Yi Qing, who looked like a wife, stood at the door with a smile on her face and greeted Guhan gently. She had waited here for 800 years. Chapter 13:13. I knew it would be you. Guhan smiled at Yi Qing, who was standing at the door, and then said to Liuyan Ling and the others behind him, "Don't stand outside. Come in, it's very cold outside." Liuyan Ling and Artoria looked at each other, not knowing what was going on. In the end, they could only follow behind Guhan and walk into the igloo. The outside world was so cold that it could freeze people into ice sculptures in an instant, but the world inside the igloo was unusually warm, like a brilliant spring, which was amazing. But there were no furnishings in this igloo. Except for an ice table and 4 ice stools, there was no other furniture. "Husband, I don't have any tea or food here, so I can't entertain you. Please forgive me, husband," Yi Qing said with some shame. "I do." Guhan smiled and took out a whole set of tea sets from his dimensional pocket. He slowly brewed a pot of tea and distributed it to Yi Qing and the others. "I'm sorry, husband. I'm afraid Qing won't be able to taste husband's gift." Looking at the steaming cup of tea in front of her, Yi Qing's face was full of pity. Liuyan Ling and Artoria looked at the steaming tea and could not drink it at all. They took a sip and stared at Guhan and Yi Qing, as if flowers could be seen on their faces. "Let me introduce you." Guhan did not intend to keep them in suspense. He pointed to Yi Qing and said, "This is Tian Jiendi Yi Qing. Although I'm not sure about my relationship with her, it seems that in the past, the two of us had an affair." An affair? A few black lines appeared on Liuyan Ling's forehead. Even if such an introduction was not unheard of in the future, it could be considered unprecedented. "Look at what you're saying, husband. How can you introduce them to the younger sisters like this?" Yi Qing gave a gentle smile and said to Liuyan Ling and Artoria, "Sister Ling, Sister Artoria, I'm your sister. You can call me Sister Yi Qing. Let's serve our husbands well and live in harmony." Bah! Artoria was the first to jump out of her chair and spat on the ground. "You must be the lackey of the heavenly court 800 years ago. I remember now. The title given to you by the heavenly court is the great sage shrouding the heavens. You better watch your mouth, or I'll." "What else can you do?" Yi Qing's expression turned cold. Artoria suddenly found that starting from her thighs, her entire body began to freeze uncontrollably. Her flesh and blood quickly turned into ice. Just when Artoria thought she was done for, the freezing stopped abruptly. The result was that other than her upper body, her entire lower body had been frozen together with the floor of the igloo, and she could no longer move. Amazing. Seeing this scene, Liuyan Ling's expression changed drastically, and she swallowed the words she was about to say. Liuyan Ling knew how strong Artoria was. Although she was not as strong as herself, there was not much difference between them. Since Artoria could be frozen by her opponent in an instant, she most likely would not be able to escape from her opponent's means. "Artoria, don't blame me, I just wanted to help you calm down." With a flick of Yi Qing's finger, Artoria's frozen legs instantly returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. But this time, Artoria did not dare to speak again. She obediently sat back on the chair, not daring to move. Yi Qing was too scary. "What's going on with this dungeon? Why are you here? Did you design this dungeon as well?" Guhan drank the tea in one gulp and asked curiously as he looked at Yi Qing's face. "No, husband, this dungeon really has nothing to do with Yi Qing. Qing was also dragged into this dungeon," Yi Qing said innocently. "Originally, Yi Qing was waiting for my husband in another place, but Qing did not expect that Yuenko's soul would disrupt the entire game. In the end, Qing was innocently drawn into this dungeon. It just so happens that the great sage shrouding the heavens in this dungeon was designed based on Qing, so Qing attached her consciousness to this NPC soul and reassembled this body," Yi Qing said. "Then where were you originally planning to wait for me?" Guhan asked curiously. "If it weren't for this incident, I wouldn't have wanted to enter the game again. The game no longer has any value or meaning to me. Aren't you waiting for me here for nothing? But haven't I already met you, husband?" Yi Qing smiled. "Actually, Qing didn't know where to wait for you, husband. Qing only knew that as long as Qing waited, I would definitely be able to see you one last time. This made Guhan understand. It seemed that Yi Qing knew that he would enter the game again, but she did not know about the changes in this dungeon. Or rather, she knew that he would definitely be dragged into this matter. Alright, Qing what do you want to tell me this time? Ji Yuhan looked into Yi Qing's bright and spirited eyes and asked in a serious manner. Qing may I ask, is Lady Immortal Slayer in your hands now? Yi Qing's expression also became serious. Yes. Guhan answered crisply, and at the same time, he placed his immortal slaying sword on the table. Is Lady Immortal Slaying Sword there? She's there too. Guhan also took out the immortal slaying sword. Then, Guhan took the initiative to answer. In addition, I also obtained the immortal slaying sword, but it is not synchronized. Also, I can't find any traces of the immortal slaying sword. Also, I have just ascended to the throne as His Majesty the Sea Monarch. My strength is similar to that of a top-notch immortal level sword wielder. I can probably fight with a flood-level Yuan Ku. At the very least, I should be able to stay alive. This is roughly the time and strength I am in. What else do you want to ask? What else do you want to tell me? Guhan straightforwardly told her everything about his current situation in one breath. If he had really traveled from the future to the past and told everything about himself to Yi Qing, then he believed that Yi Qing would definitely make the best decision after knowing the time period he was in. Darling, don't you think that your current strength is already very strong? When Yi Qing heard about Guhan's formidable strength, a worried expression appeared on her face. Is Darling already planning to go to the seamless corridor to save Sister Artoria? Artoria, who had been eavesdropping the entire time, opened her eyes in confusion. What did Yi Qing mean by this? What did she mean by going to the seamless corridor to save her? How could she be trapped in a place like the seamless corridor? Wasn't she right here? Millimeter. Unexpectedly, Guhan nodded very directly. That's right, I do have such plans. Qing must have told Darling before that before Darling becomes an immortal level sword wielder, you absolutely cannot go and save Sister Artoria. Did Darling forget? Yi Qing's expression was somewhat reproachful. Don't I already have the strength of a top-notch immortal level sword wielder? Isn't that enough? Guhan asked with a frown. Not enough. Even if you, husband, have already become an immortal level swordbearer, that still isn't enough. Unless you, husband, can truly ascend to the throne and become an emperor. Otherwise, the seamless corridor is an absolutely dangerous place. However, Qing knows that husband cares far too much about little Sister Artoria, and so husband, you definitely won't be able to wait that long, Yi Qing said helplessly. All right. I promise you. Until I become an immortal level sword wielder, I won't go to the seamless corridor. Don't worry now. All right. Qing believes in Darling. Yi Qing revealed a smile and nodded. Darling, let's go. To where? Guhan asked. To help Darling complete your mission, of course. Darling, didn't you come all the way here in hopes that Qing can help Darling leave this dungeon? Yi Qing said. But you still haven't told me what you came here to tell me, Guhan asked curiously. Didn't Qing already say it? Yi Qing smiled. Helping Darling leave this dungeon is Qing's mission this time, isn't it? What's your relationship with that Yi Qing? Is she really Zhe Tianjendi? Isn't Zhe Tianjendi a man? Liunyun Ling asked as she bit Guhan's ear on the way back to Xianyang Airport. Because Yi Qing was still a soul, she couldn't leave the ground for long. Like the other souls, she temporarily hid in Guhan's peach tree of immortality. And so, the group returned to how they were before. Don't tell me that even the Liunyun family doesn't know that there are actually two Zhe Tianjendi. Guhan looked at Liunyun Ling with some surprise. He decided not to lie to his beloved woman, so he said decisively, actually, there are two Zhe Tianjendi. One is the male Zhe Jendi that you know of, and the other is Yi Qing. I think she gave herself the title of Sihan Jendi. That's impossible. Zhe Tianjendi is a heaven-defying figure second only to our ancestor. Our Liunyun family pays close attention to him. In our database, Zhe Tianjendi's information takes up an entire room. There's no way that Zhetian Jendi is a man and a woman can hide from our Lionian family. But Sihan Jendi. I've seen this title somewhere before. I think there's such a person in Zhetian Jendi's information, but it doesn't seem to be there. How strange. Wait, Sihan. Lionian Ling's expression changed, and she suddenly fell back into her chair with a huff. It seemed like Lionian Ling had already understood the meaning behind Sihan Jendi's title. Chapter 13-14. System, Hidden Dungeon Quest 5 has been completed. You have returned to Lu Ban's side. The journey back was very smooth. The people from the Heavenly Court didn't show up at all. Jiyu Han and the others easily returned to the underground palace of Xianyang Airport and saw Lu Ban, but compared to the last time they met, this underground palace was now filled with people, or rather, a sea of primordial mountains and primordial seas. Who knew how many primordial bandits were living in this underground palace? It wasn't like the first time Jiyu Han came here. Aside from Lu Ban, there wasn't a single primordial bandit. All of the primordial bandits had been moved away. Master. Lu Shihua walked over with a slightly dissatisfied expression. 3 days ago, when they left to collect souls, Guhan had forced Lu Shihua to stay. Guhan's reason was very straightforward. Lu Shihua was not strong enough. If he went, he might cause more trouble. So, Guhan had Lu Shihua stay. Very well. Mr. Military Governor, take out the peach tree of immortality you collected. Guhan took out the peach tree of immortality the moment Lu Ban finished speaking. Lu Ban nodded. Then, I'll have to trouble Mr. Military Governor to cut this peach tree of immortality into 6 equal pieces. System, Hidden Dungeon Quest 6 has been generated. Please cut the peach tree of immortality into 6 pieces and carve the 6 pieces of peach tree of immortality into the likeness of the great sages. Cut it into 6 pieces. Seeing the quest prompt, Guhan pondered for a moment and understood Lu Ban's intention. Lord Lu Ban, are you planning to use this peach tree of immortality as the bodies for the resurrection of the 6 great sages? Guhan asked directly. I didn't expect you to be able to figure that out. Lu Ban praised and nodded. That's right. This peach tree of immortality is the wood of longevity. It is also the most suitable material for storing souls. If you use this peach tree of immortality to carve the bodies and combine it with the 3 innate materials, you can resurrect the 6 great sages. This is great. The 6 great sages can finally be resurrected. Hearing Lu Ban's words, Artoria was the first to cheer excitedly. This emotion spread throughout the underground palace, and everyone cheered with her. Once the 6 great sages were resurrected, it meant that the 800 years of struggling at death's door and hiding were finally over. How could this not make the remaining Yuan Ku's cheer? Guhan frowned slightly when he heard the cheers around him. He immediately asked Lu Ban, can this peach tree be divided into 7 parts? 7 portions? Lu Ban's expression was one of shock. Artoria, who was beside him, immediately reacted. She walked up to Lu Ban and whispered a few words in his ear. She had obviously told Lu Ban about Yi Qing. So you wanted to resurrect Zhetian Jendi as well. Can you guarantee that Zhejendi will be on our side? Lu Ban said with some uncertainty. You know, this mission is extremely important. If anything goes wrong, forget about the millions of souls. Military Governor, you must not be harmed at all. I know that. Guhan nodded. I can guarantee that Zhetian Jendi will definitely be on our side. If Zhetian Jendi is here, our chances of completing this mission will be even higher. This. Lu Ban hesitated for a moment before saying, I'm afraid there's still a problem. Even if we divide the peach tree into 7 parts, we still need to carve out the original appearances of the 6 great sages. I have the appearance of all 6 great sages in my mind, and I believe I can carve out their appearances accurately. However, I've never seen Zhetian Jendi before, so I'm afraid I won't be able to carve out her appearance. That's not a problem. Just leave it to me, Guhan said nonchalantly. Mr. Admiral, don't think that this is a simple matter. To put it bluntly, even with this old man's talent, without 40 years of painstaking cultivation, I still can't say that I can sculpt the 6 great sages with 100% accuracy. Aren't you oversimplifying things by patting your chest and making a promise? Lu Ban's tone was a little displeased. Lu Ban was known as the god of carpentry in the history of mankind. He was the ancestor of all carpentry, and his carving skills were naturally superb. Even Lu Ban needed 40 years of hard work before he could say that he could carve peach wood. Jiyu Han, a young man in his early 20s, who had never touched carpentry before, dared to say that he could carve peach wood. Lu Ban was a little displeased that Jiyu Han, a young man in his early 20s who had never touched carpentry before, dared to boast like that. It's fine. I can do it. Gu Han ignored Lu Ban's displeasure and insisted. Fine. Then cut it into 7 pieces. Lu Ban could do nothing about Gu Han, so he reluctantly agreed. However, before that, Lu Ban asked Gu Han to take out the living soil of the 9 heavens. He divided it into 7 pieces and placed them on each side of the peach tree. In Lu Ban's words, the 7 pieces would be used to temporarily absorb the souls condensed in the peach tree. After waiting for about an hour, Lu Ban suddenly shouted, "Do it." 6 streaks of sword light flashed, and the heavenly peach tree was evenly divided into 6 sections. Each section was around 1.8 meters in length, so it wouldn't be an issue for them to carve out the appearance of a normal human. Since you insist on carving Je Tian Jendi, I'll give you this peach tree. I hope you can finish carving this before I finish the other 6. Otherwise, you'll waste too much time. Lu Ban handed one of the peach trees to Gu Han. Finally, it's time to use you again, my old friends. Lu Ban took out a very simple-looking carpenter's tools and stroked them affectionately. After that, he began to work on the 6 pieces of peach tree. Lu Ban lived up to his reputation as the legendary god of carpentry. All his movements were orderly, and the knife in his hand was superb. In just an hour, a piece of coarse peach wood had been transformed into a human figure in Lu Ban's hands. If it were not for the fact that the color of the wood was so different from that of a real person, everyone would have thought that it was a living person lying there at first glance. I'm getting old. It took me more than an hour to carve such a small person. Lu Ban, who had finished carving the first person, rubbed his shoulder and deliberately spoke in Gu Han's direction. At the same time, his eyes unconsciously drifted to Gu Han's position. He wanted to see how the puppet that Gu Han was carving was doing. However, as soon as he saw Lu Ban, he was so angry that his beard could not stop blowing. Gu Han was not doing anything. He was just sitting in front of the peach tree and meditating. He did not seem to have any intention of doing anything. Is this military governor going to trouble me to do it in the end? Lu Ban sighed in his heart. He had no other choice but to continue carving the peach tree. However, the following process was not as smooth as the first peach tree. As his energy continued to be consumed, Lu Ban's spirit continued to decline, and it took more and more time to carve. In the end, when Lu Ban finished carving all 6 figures, 20 hours had passed. Including the time that Gu Han had spent collecting souls, 4.5 days had passed since the 1-week deadline. Gu Han only had about 2.5 days left. Mr. Military Governor, if you really can't carve it, give me a photo, and I'll try to carve it for you according to the photo. Lu Ban said helplessly when he saw that the peach tree in front of Gu Han was still not moving. However, in the face of Lu Ban's kindness, Gu Han did not move at all. He was still quietly sitting in a meditative posture, looking calm and collected. In the end, I still have to do it myself. Lu Ban smiled bitterly and reached out to move the peach tree in front of Gu Han. However, when Lu Ban was less than a meter away from Gu Han, a piercing sword energy suddenly erupted, and Lu Ban was pushed back by the sword energy. His right hand was instantly drenched in blood. Master Lu Ban, are you okay? Artoria quickly rushed over when she saw Lu Ban's injury. Lu Ban exclaimed, "What a powerful sword energy. I can't believe it could injure my hand so badly in such a short time. Amazing. Amazing." This was indeed an extremely amazing thing. After all, no matter how weak Lu Ban was, he was still a universe-level Yuan Ku. Without absolute strength, it was impossible to injure a universe-level Yuan Ku's hand so badly in such a short time. "You bastard, how dare you hurt Lord Lu Ban? Take this, the power of Noxus." When Treyas saw that Lu Ban was injured, He immediately swung his big axe and chopped at Guhan's head. Stop! Just as Traeus's axe was about to land on the defenseless Guhan's head, a blue sword energy appeared out of nowhere and blocked Traeus's axe. You can't hurt him, Artoria said calmly. After fighting alongside Guhan, Artoria understood that Guhan was an indispensable combat force in this operation. He might even be the key to the final victory or defeat. She couldn't let Guhan get hurt. Bang! At this moment, Guhan, who had been in a meditative state, raised his hands and pulled out the immortal extinguishing sword and the immortal slaying sword at the same time. Countless sword energies, as fine as scalpels, gushed out of the two swords and struck the peach tree in front of Guhan. Sawdust filled the entire underground palace like snowflakes. Those who were closest to Guhan couldn't even see the faces of the people around them. They were all covered in light yellow sawdust. The dust came and went quickly. In less than a minute, all the dust had fallen. At this moment, a woman as gentle as water was born under Guhan's sword energy. Chapter 13-15. Amazing. Even Lu Ban could not help but exclaim in admiration when he saw Guhan's sculpture. This sculpture had both spirit and form. Even if it could not compare to Lu Ban's sculpture, the difference was almost the same. So, Lu Ban could not help but ask, "Kid, have you practiced carpentry before?" "No." Guhan shook his head. "That's strange then. Such craftsmanship. Such details. Such essence, qi, and spirit." Lu Ban walked around Yi Qing's sculpture for a long time. In the end, he could not help but say to Guhan, "Why don't you learn carpentry from me? I promise you'll finish your apprenticeship in 3 years. The title of the world's #1 carpenter will be yours." "Senior Lu Ban, you're too humble. I don't have any talent for carpentry." Guhan smiled. "I'm just condensing my thoughts together and presenting them on this peach tree. This is just a trick of the sword qi. I still don't know anything about carpentry. At most, I'm a brilliant sculptor. Even if I study for another 30 years, the title of the world's #1 carpenter will still belong to you." Of course, Guhan could not accept Lu Ban's invitation. Lu Ban was just an NPC in a dungeon. Even if he left this dungeon, Lu Ban would still exist in the game. He could no longer enter the game. Seeing that Guhan had rejected him, Lu Ban sighed and did not say anything else. He placed the 7 wooden sculptures side by side, took out the living soil of the 9 heavens that he had prepared earlier, and scattered it on the 7 wooden sculptures. The living soil of the 9 heavens was spread evenly, covering the 7 wooden sculptures like a black membrane. "Mr. Military Governor, take out your water of Tai and sprinkle it on these wooden sculptures," Lu Ban said to Guhan. Guhan nodded and took out the water of Tai from his dimensional pocket. Following Lu Ban's instructions, he sprinkled it evenly on the wooden sculptures. The moment the water of Tai came into contact with the living soil of the 9 heavens, something magical happened. The thin layer of living soil of the 9 heavens suddenly grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. It looked like a dry sponge that was absorbing water crazily. In the end, when all the water of Tai was used up, the thin layer of living soil of the 9 heavens had turned into a thick mass of soil. To put it bluntly, it looked like 7 burial mounds. Legend has it that the living soil of the 9 heavens is the source of all soil in the world. It is the source of all soil in the world. It was even said that when the Milky Way broke apart all those years ago, the innate water within the Milky Way flowed into the earth. In the end, it was Goddess Nua who refined rocks to mend the heavens. She used the 5-colored divine stones to refine the 9 heavens life soil, and she used the 9 heavens life soil to plug up the hole in the sky and save the entire world. I didn't expect this legend to be true. Liuyan Ling mumbled to herself. Her family had stored a large amount of information from before the Great Apocalypse, so it was not surprising that she knew about the living soil of the 9 heavens. That's right. Lu Ban nodded. Because the living soil of the 9 heavens has an endless ability to grow. Combined with the natural source of Tai water and the immortality peach wood, the basic materials for resurrection are all gathered. Now, all that's left is to use the true fire of 9 yang to forge these materials. Understood. Guhan took out the last bit of the true fire of 9 yang in his hand. He split it into 7 small flames and threw them onto the living soil of the 9 heavens. Logically speaking, when the flames touched the soil, they should be extinguished very quickly. But in reality, the true fire of 9 yang ignited the living soil of the 9 heavens. The 7 burial mounds were burning wildly. The true fire of 9 yang burned for an unknown period of time. Suddenly, the burial mounds began to tremble slightly. Finally, a jet-black head broke out of the soil like a young seedling. Ah! This scene gave Lu Shihua a fright. Half a head suddenly grew out of the soil. This was truly frightening. The jet-black hair was just the beginning. Gradually, a complete head grew out of the burial mound. Gu Han could clearly tell that this head was the same as the one Lu Ban had carved. However, this head was no longer a wooden head. Instead, it looked no different from a real person. These freshly carved wooden sculptures actually grew out of the grave like trees. Of course, this growth rate was far faster than the normal growth rate. Gu Han observed for a moment and found that all the great sages grew at different rates. Some were so fast that half of their bodies had already grown out. For example, this Yuan Ku had 8 different faces on his head. Gu Han recognized this Yuan Ku. He was the famous Yamata no Orokai, one of the only 2 desolate-level Yuan Ku in the Fuso divine system. In reality, this Yamata no Orokai died in the hands of Jiyu Jinjendi about 100 years ago. He did not expect to become one of the 6 great sages of Yuan Ku in the dungeon world. Although Yamata no Orokai was one of the desolate-level Yuan Ku, Yamata no Orokai was the weakest among the desolate-level Yuan Ku. Otherwise, it would not have been so easily defeated by Jiyu Jinjendi, who had just ascended to the throne. The second fastest was Yuan Ku, who wore leather and had eyes like salted duck eggs. Gu Han recognized this Yuan Ku at a glance. He was the strongest of the Ultraman clan, the Ultra King. This Yuan Ku had died in the hands of humans more than 400 years ago. The Ultra clan had also joined the Freedom faction and rarely appeared on human battlefields. The third and fourth fastest were Jendi the Heaven's Equal and Jendi the Heaven's Equal. The fifth fastest was our comrade Zeus. Speaking of which, this Yuan Ku and Gu Han had some history. It was precisely because of Zeus' death that the entire Norse pantheon collapsed. Loki also took the opportunity to become independent, bringing great trouble to Yuzhang City. Among the 6 great sages, the slowest one was a female great sage. When her head grew out completely, the fastest was Orokai, whose upper body was about to grow out completely. Seeing this female great sage, Jiyu Han's expression couldn't help but be a little puzzled. In all the information of Yuenko that Jiyu Han had, it seemed that he had never seen a female great sage who looked like this. Its sister Zetian. On the contrary, Liuyan Ling could not help but let out a cry of surprise after seeing the female great sage's face. "You know her?" Gu Han immediately asked curiously. "Yes." Liuyan Ling nodded and said in surprise, "She is Wu Zetian's sister. She is our family's guest, but she does not like to go out. She only likes to stay in her room and play games. When I was young, I trained every day. It was rare that I had time to rest. I spent it at Sister Wu Zetian's place playing games, but Sister Wu Zetian always said that she was just a nether-level guest. How did she become one of the 6 great sages?" It seemed that this was what shocked Liuyan Ling the most. There is nothing strange about this. Great Sage Zetian is best at hiding her strength. When she tries her best to hide her strength, you will find that she is not even as good as the weakest human girl. Lu Ban walked up to Liuyan Ling and explained. "Wu Zetian, I think I have seen this name before." Gu Han recalled for a moment. "By the way, Li Bai once told me that he once wrote a poem to an empress. The empress even invited Li Bai to stay in her palace for the night, but Li Bai has a free and easy nature and does not like the rich and powerful, so he rejected the empress. I think this empress's name is Wu Zetian." "Ahem." Lu Ban coughed. He knew the most about Li Bai and Wu Zetian. When Li Bai met Wu Zetian, she was probably an old woman who was almost 80 years old. It would be strange if the handsome and arrogant Li Bai was willing to serve an old woman like Wu Zetian. When Wu Zetian's upper body gradually grew out of the grave, Ji Yuhan's expression instantly changed. This was because Wu Zetian's upper body was completely naked, even though the crucial parts had yet to grow out. Although the crucial part had not yet grown out, it was not hard to imagine that when the crucial part emerged from the soil, it would be completely naked. Gu Han did not care about Wu Zetian's naked body, but Gu Han was concerned about another person's body. Gu Han quickly looked at the seventh grave. Yi Qing was the slowest to grow. When Wu Zetian's upper body was about to emerge, Yi Qing had only just revealed half of his head. If Yi Qing's entire body grew out, wouldn't he be like Wu Zetian? Thinking of this, Gu Han could not remain calm. He took out his extinguish immortal sword and shot out dozens of sword chi whirlwinds, completely surrounding Yi Qing's area. The sword chi whirlwinds appeared to be a vast expanse of white. This way, no one from the outside could see what was going on inside the sword chi whirlwinds. Naturally, it was impossible to see Yi Qing's body that was about to grow out. Then, Gu Han walked directly into the sword chi whirlwinds. When he was done, he gave the surrounding Yuan Kus a warning look. His meaning was clear. If anyone dared to enter, he would kill them. Haha. This little guy is so protective of his food. Lu Ban could not help but laugh when he saw this scene. Me too. Gu Han's action reminded Liuan Ling. She followed suit and shot out a sword chi whirlwind to protect Wu Zetian's body. Although Wu Zetian and Liuan Ling in this instant's dungeon had nothing to do with each other, when she thought about how she used to play games with Wu Zetian as a child, Liuan Ling felt the need to protect her. Chapter 1316. Ha 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 ha. I'm finally resurrected. After an unknown period of time, a beast-like roar suddenly sounded in the underground palace. This meant that the first great sage was finally resurrected. Greetings, great sage sky sweeping. This great sage sky sweeping was naturally referring to the desolate level Yuan Ku Orokai, who had the fastest resurrection speed. All the Yuan Ku in the underground palace, including Artoria, knelt in front of the desolate level Yuan Ku and spoke with great respect and sincerity. What great sage sky sweeping? Why have I never heard of it? Hearing the congratulations of so many people, Orokai was happy, but there was a little displeasure on his face. Oh no, this great sage sky sweeping is. Hearing Orochi's words, everyone exclaimed and realized that they had said the wrong thing. This great sage sky sweeping was not the name of the 6 great sages when they were in power. Instead, it was the name given to them by the heavenly court when they were in power. Because the name itself was not insulting and sounded very impressive, over time, even Yuan Ku was used to calling them by the names of the 6 great sages. Hence, it was natural for him to recite it just now. But the problem was that Orokai did not know this, so there was such a change. Replying to the venerable, Artoria took the initiative to stand up, walked to Orochi's side, and reported the truth honestly. Oh no. Hearing Artoria tell the truth so foolishly, Lu Ban's face suddenly changed. Orokai was the most bad-tempered, unreasonable, and overbearing desolate level Yuan Ku among the 6 great sages. If he heard everyone calling him by the name given by the enemy, he would definitely be angry. Sure enough, just as Lu Ban feared, something bad happened. When Orokai heard that the name Great Sage Sky Sweeping was given to him by the heavenly court, his ugly face became even more ferocious. Countless tentacles stretched out from his body in an instant. In an instant, he grabbed hundreds of Yuan Ku in the underground palace and roared, "How dare you call me by the name given by the enemy? I will teach you the rules with your blood." Orochi's behavior frightened all the Yuan Ku and humans present. They always thought that they resurrected a predecessor and a strong person who could give them a bright future. But they did not expect that the predecessor and the strong person would extend his tentacles to their own people as soon as he was resurrected. Orokai was just reciting a name that should not be recited, and Orokai was planning to retaliate with hundreds of live. What was more frightening was that Orokai did not intend to kill these unlucky people directly. Instead, it kept tightening their bodies with its tentacles, forcing them to scream in pain. Orochi's 8 faces were full of joy. Obviously, it enjoyed this torture very much. Alas, this is the nature of Orokai. Seeing this, Lu Ban let out a helpless sigh. This was the nature of Orokai. He took pleasure in killing and torturing people. Even though he had just been resurrected, he did not care about kindness at all. Lu Ban really did not know whether it was right or wrong to resurrect such a guy. If there was anyone who felt the most pain when hearing such screams, it was undoubtedly Artoria. It was because of her rash and frank answer that these bandits suffered such terrible torture. Artoria could not bear it any longer. She walked directly to Orokai and said angrily, "Venerable one, we have spent so much effort and countless lives to bring you back to life. Is this how you treat our benefactors?" Benefactors? Orokai seemed to have heard a ridiculous joke. "You just want to use my power to destroy the heavenly court. This is just an equivalent deal. You resurrect me, and I give you freedom. But this is not a fair deal. How can such a precious freedom be repaid by simply resurrecting me? Let the blood and screams be part of this deal. Ha 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 ha." Yamata no Orochi's crazy speech made all the Yuenko and humans in the underground palace filled with anger. "Are you kidding me? Don't tell me that the kindness of resurrecting your life isn't as precious as freedom. Do you really believe in death is better than freedom?" Although every Yuan-ku was full of anger, in the face of the crazy Orokai, no one dared to stand up and refute. Orokai was the only desolate level Yuan-ku in the entire underground palace. No one was a match for Orokai at all. They really brought this upon themselves. Thinking of this, Yuan-ku and the humans in the palace were extremely regretful. Why did they resurrect such a bastard? Beast. Lunatic. Venerable one, I am the leader of these people. I didn't think it through. All the mistakes are on me. Please let them go, Venerable one. I will bear all the punishment. Seeing that the situation was showing signs of getting out of control, Artoria bit her lip, knelt on one knee in front of Orokai, and took the initiative to speak. "You will bear it." Orochi's 8 faces kept changing, and finally, like an open reel, all 8 faces looked at Artoria at the same time. "Ah, what a beautiful woman," Orokai said in an extremely obscene voice. "Yes, I am very satisfied. You are a very perfect mating partner. You want to save the lives of these disrespectful people, right?" Orochi's 8 faces showed a playful expression at the same time. "Come on. Take off your clothes, take the initiative to hug the venerable Orochi's tentacles, and use your body to make him spit out happy liquid." Everyone understood the meaning of this sentence, but this was definitely a very serious case of sexual harassment. Interesting. Liu Ling and Lu Shihua watched the whole scene. Although there was a bit of sympathy on their faces, they had absolutely no intention of stepping forward to help. This was just a dungeon in a game, and it was a dog-eat-dog plot between Yuan-ku. The most important thing was that the woman being molested was Artoria. In the previous operation, Liu Ling instinctively sensed that Guhan had some special feelings for Artoria. This was the most unacceptable to Liu Ling, and she was happy to see Artoria being humiliated. Well, usually, Liu Ling was not such a petty person. But when this kind of thing happened between 2 women, it often became unreasonable, and this matter could not be speculated with common sense. Hearing Orochi's request, Artoria's expression froze. Her right hand clenched the sword of the lake in her hand, and the blue veins on her arm showed how angry Artoria was at this time. "Do you want to resist?" Orokai sneered. "Let's not talk about whether you are my opponent or not, but I guarantee that the lives of these hundreds of little guys will be gone on the spot." "You." Artoria's hand finally loosened weakly, and her fingers slowly moved to her collar. It was obvious that Artoria was struggling internally, but she still decided to sacrifice herself for the lives of more than 100 people. This is the Virgin Mary syndrome. It has to be cured. Suddenly, a voice sounded in Artoria's ear, and at the same time, Artoria only felt a strong wind blowing, and a handsome and aloof figure stood in front of her. This Guhan really has an affair with this woman Artoria. Seeing Guhan standing in front of Artoria at the critical moment, Liu Ling suddenly muttered a little unhappily. He didn't show up for so long just now, and when Artoria was about to take off her clothes, he ran out. What was the difference between creating a sword energy vortex and standing in front of Yi Qing? A spirit sword level human? What a boring bug. Orokai saw through Guhan's level at a glance, and his 8 faces were full of disdain. He waved one of his tentacles casually, trying to pinch Guhan to death on the spot. Chaos Heaven opening. In the face of the whizzing tentacle, Guhan just glanced at it coldly and used Chaos Heaven opening to hit the tentacle. But this was not an ordinary Chaos Heaven opening, but a Chaos Heaven opening with Guhan's rule power. Orokai didn't expect that Guhan would have the rule power, so his tentacle was directly strangled into a pile of minced meat by Guhan. At the same time, countless white liquid contained in the tentacle sprinkled down like rain. Of course, Guhan wouldn't let his body be touched by such dirty liquid, so Guhan's sword energy swept all the liquid back into Orochi's body. Human. You actually. Finding that one of his tentacles was destroyed, Orokai was more vigilant than angry. An opponent who had the rule power was not easy to deal with. Although Guhan was only at the spirit sword level now, this was actually the most terrifying thing about him. Human. Aren't you afraid that I will kill your companions? Orokai once again squeezed Yuan Ku, who was controlled by other tentacles, making them scream even more miserably. Whatever. I'm not Yuenko. If you want to kill him, then kill him. What does it have to do with me? Ji Yuhan said disdainfully. This caused Yamata no Orokai to be dumbfounded. What happened to the Holy Mother protagonist? Human. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you? The current you is still not my opponent. Orokai threatened fiercely. This was the truth. Orokai was a desolate level Yuan Ku, which was not something that Guhan could deal with now. You can't kill me. Ji Yuhan smiled coldly. As long as I escape, I'll immediately go to the heavenly court and tell them about your resurrection and where you're hiding. By the way, I forgot to tell you one thing. I was the one who found your immortality peach tree body, and I left a small mark in it. No matter where you are, even in the void, I'll be able to find you. This time, it was Orochi's turn to be captured by Guhan. He suddenly felt like he had been F***ked. Orokai, put down our benefactor, or I, the Ottal King, will be the first to kill you. Behind Orokai, a dignified, weathered, and righteous voice rang out. The second of the 6 saints, the Ottal King, had successfully resurrected. Chapter 13:17. You want to help this human? Yamata no Orokai waved his tentacle and spoke to the Alt King with dissatisfaction. I don't want to help this human. I want to help the justice of this universe. The Alt King said. If it weren't for these juniors trying their best to revive us, you and I would be nothing more than lonely ghosts in the wild. If you dare hurt these people who saved our lives, I will kill you. Me. It's just 100 or so unworthy little fellows. You actually want to fight me because of them. Yamata no Orokai was even angrier. The tension between him and the Alt King was getting stronger. It looked like they were about to fight. If these 2 desolate level Yuan Ku really started fighting in the underground palace, the entire underground palace would probably not exist anymore. It would be reduced to ashes in an instant. These buildings would not be able to withstand a battle between desolate level powers. Yamata no Orokai, do you really want to fight us? Just as the situation was about to explode, a voice said. Then, a naked human with a body full of strong muscles stood next to the Ultra King. Obviously, this human was on the Alt King's side. Ping Tian Jendi, you want to help this skinned savage? Have you forgotten that your wife died at the hands of this skinned savage? Yamata no Orokai said angrily and confusedly. The 3rd desolate level elite that appeared was not a stranger. It was the human Ping Tian Jendi. From Yamata no Orochi's words, it could be heard that Ping Tian Jendi's wife had died at the hands of the Alt King. Ping Tian Jendi and the Alt King could be said to be mortal enemies. Back then, when the 6 of us formed an alliance, we already made it clear that we would temporarily put aside our past hatred. Once we destroy the Heavenly Court, we will settle our old debt. The Leveling Heaven Sword Emperor said indifferently. If that's the case, then why are you helping this guy? Yamata no Orokai asked unhappily. Originally, I didn't want to help him. But if I'm not wrong, you were preparing to fight a new talent of the human race, a spiritual sword-level sword wielder. In the entire palace, there is only 1 immortal sword wielder and 2 spiritual sword wielder. There are also some weaker sword wielder of other levels. This spiritual sword wielder is the only remaining descendant of the human race. Why wouldn't I help him? Ping Tianjendi said matter-of-factly. This. Yamata no Orokai hesitated. In order to protect the descendants of his own race, it was only natural that Ping Tianjendi would help his descendant. He would definitely stand up for this human. Yamata no Orokai was the weakest among the 6 great sages. If Ping Tianjendi and the Alt King worked together, he would definitely lose. Who wants to bully the younger generation of the human race? Another loud voice said. Hearing this voice, Yamata no Orokai completely gave up on the idea of fighting. A gloomy expression appeared on his face. This was the voice of Jendi. Jendi had also been resurrected after Ping Tianjendi. The combined strength of the 2 human Jendi was enough to chop Yamata no Orokai into thousands of pieces. Not to mention, there was also the Alt King helping them. Thinking of this, Yamata no Orokai completely understood that he could no longer confront these people. He had to admit defeat. He did not want to become a stray ghost again after being resurrected for only a few hours. Seeing that the situation had calmed down, Artoria and the others heaved a long sigh of relief. If they really fought in the underground palace, they would not be able to take revenge on the heavenly court. Even the remaining Yuan Ku would not be able to survive. Seeing that the situation had calmed down, Ping Tianjendi waved his hand at Guhan and asked with a smile, "You, what's your name?" "Your Majesty Ping Tian, my name is Military Governor." Hearing Ping Tianjendi's call, Guhan walked up calmly. Although he addressed Ping Tianjendi as Your Majesty, he did not treat him with much respect. At most, he treated him as an equal. "This kid is interesting." Ping Tianjendi smiled awkwardly and said with slight dissatisfaction, "Are all humans as brave as you now? Don't they have any respect for their elders? I'm not the sword wielder of this world, so naturally, I'm not your junior. At the same time, I've spent a lot of effort to collect your souls. Honestly speaking, shouldn't you be thanking me?" Ji Yuhan said calmly. This. Ping Tianjendi and Heaven's equal Jendi looked at each other. Clearly, they were shocked by Guhan's answer. Seeing the 2 Jendi's expressions, Guhan did not wait for them to ask. He took the initiative to tell them about how he came from another dimension and how he resurrected them. "I see." Ping Tianjendi and Heaven's equal Jendi sighed and nodded. "Back then, we also guessed that if other dimensions really exist, would there be a world with sword bearers like ours in other dimensions? Now, it seems like our guess was right. Such dimensions do exist. In that case, it's not appropriate for us to be your elders. We really have to thank you for saving our lives." The Heaven's equal sword emperor nodded. Then, a bitter smile appeared on his face as he said, "However, before the 2 of us thank you, can you help us with something?" "As long as it's within my means, I'll do it," Military Governor answered decisively. "Ahem. There are many juniors here. Do you think it's appropriate for us to be like this?" Ping Tianjendi said awkwardly. It was only then that Guhan realized that the 2 Jendis were still naked. They could only separate one hand to cover their lower bodies. It was needless to say how awkward they looked. "I've been careless." Guhan hurriedly took out 2 sets of clothes from his dimensional pocket and handed them to Ping Tianjendi and Heaven's equal Jendi. Seeing the extremely convenient dimensional pocket in Guhan's hand, Heaven's equal Jendi and Heaven's equal Jendi couldn't help but exclaim, "So the dimensional technology in your world has already developed to such a level." Heaven's equal Jendi and Heaven's equal Jendi put on their clothes and chatted with Guhan for a while. Ping Tianjendi pulled Heaven's equal Jendi's hand to express their gratitude to Guhan. Of course, Guhan couldn't really accept the Jendi's bow and gratitude. Both parties exchanged a few pleasantries. However, Guhan's status was already equal to Ping Tianjendi and Heaven's equal Jendi. Of course, the most important reason why they could be equal was that Guhan had thrown a sword chi containing the rule power at the 2 Jendis. It scared the 2 Jendis so much that they had a horrified expression on their faces. A spirit sword level sword wielder with the rule power was really terrifying. Next, Guhan introduced his disciple Lu Shihua and Liunian Ling to the 2 Jendis. The two Gendis only nodded at Lu Shihua and didn't pay much attention to him. However, when they heard Liuyan Ling's name, they instantly became excited and couldn't help asking, "Is Miss Liuyan Ling the descendant of Lord Kunzu?" "That's right." Liuyan Ling nodded her head. "That's great. I never thought that the Kunzu's bloodline could be passed down in another dimension. We feel much better now." Heaven's equal Gendi sighed. "If it wasn't for Drifting Goblet's Gendi's desperate battle, we wouldn't be able to live to this day." From Heaven's equal Gendi's words, Guhan learned about the background story of this instant's dungeon. When Yangjing City was attacked by the Heavenly Court, Drifting Goblet Gendi used his life to block the 5 desolate level Yuan coups from the Heavenly Court. That was how Heaven's equal Gendi and Pingtian Gendi, as well as a large number of sword ladies from Yangjing City's sword pavilion, managed to escape. Otherwise, Heaven's equal Gendi and Pingtian Gendi would have died, and there wouldn't be these two powerful sword-bearers now. When they heard that Liuyan Ling was Kunzu's descendant, the two emperor sword-bearers treated Liuyan Ling differently. They were even more respectful than they were to Guhan. This made Guhan sigh. The Liuyan family's terrifying influence didn't just exist in the real world. Even a virtual instance dungeon had such a terrifying influence. Could the Liuyan family have stood strong for over 1,000 years? When Guhan and the other sword-bearers were chatting happily, there was movement from the grave mound. Odin, in the previous chapter, due to the author's terrible memory, he misremembered Zeus as the leader of Norse mythology. In fact, Zeus is the leader of Greek mythology, while Odin is the leader of Norse mythology. That's why I changed Zeus to Odin. After reviving, he walked out of the grave mound. Unlike the bearded Odin from the legends who looked like a bad-tempered old man and wielded the Lance of Eternity, the earring that appeared now was that of a handsome man with a graceful bearing. If it wasn't for the standard 12 muscles on his body, Ji Yuhan might have mistaken him for a Korean wave boy who popped out of nowhere. "I hope you've been well since we last met." Odin walked up to Ping Tian Gendi and Heaven's equal Gendi. Since Odin could revive after Ping Tian Gendi and Heaven's equal Gendi, it meant that Odin was more powerful than the two Gendi. Odin was willing to take the initiative to greet these two sword emperors. From this, it could be seen that his conduct was not bad. In reality, as the king of gods of the Norse pantheon, if he did not have a few tricks up his sleeve, he would not be able to keep his seat. This little brother must be the friend who helped us revive. What a young talent. Amazing. Odin's compliment also landed on Guhan's butt. Although Guhan did not fall for it, he had a better impression of Odin. "I'm ashamed to say this, but when I revived just now, I looked at Her Majesty Wu Zetian. Half of her legs have not grown back. It seems that my strength is still quite far from Her Majesty Wu Zetian's," Odin said with a bitter smile. Chapter 13:18. While they were talking, Odin glanced thoughtfully at the clothes the Leveling Heaven Sword Emperor and Heaven's Equal Sword Emperor were wearing. Ji Yuhan immediately reacted and took out a set of clothes from the dimensional pocket and handed it to Odin without a word. Odin thanked him and put on the clothes happily. Odin, who had put on the clothes, suddenly walked in front of Wu Zetian, who was in the process of resurrecting. With a wave of his hands, the sword energy that Liuyan Ling had set up disappeared without a trace. At this time, Wu Zetian was in the same state as Odin just now. At this time, Wu Zetian was not the image of an 80-year-old woman when she died, but a 30-year-old woman in the prime of her life. Her skin was as smooth as the moon, and her figure was perfect to the extreme. Especially the pair of opium pies. It could not be said to be very big, but it could not be said to be very small either. It was the size that could be held in one hand. This was also the size that men were most obsessed with and admired. Furthermore, Wu Zetian's appearance was just like her original name, Mai Niang. She was extremely charming. Ji Yuhan had seen her with his own eyes, and he had seen her in pictures, but there was not a single person who could be as charming as Wu Zetian. No wonder she was able to confuse Li Shimin and Li Ji, and finally become the legendary empress of a generation to replace the Tang dynasty. So beautiful. "My queen," Odin could not help but exclaim in admiration. "Pervert," Liuyan Ling muttered. Then, Liunian Ling quickly found a set of her own clothes and put them on Wu Zetian's exposed upper body to prevent this spring scenery from being exposed again. What a pity! What a pity! Seeing Wu Zetian put on her clothes again, Odin said regretfully. After waiting for about half an hour, Wu Zetian finally finished growing. She opened her eyes and walked out of the grave mound. Who put these clothes on me? Wu Zetian asked as soon as she woke up. It's me. Sister Mai Niang, Liunian Ling said excitedly. She seemed to have forgotten one thing. This was not reality, but a game dungeon. Her big sister Wu Mainyang did not recognize her at all. Get lost. Wu Zetian pushed out with a single hand, and Liunian Ling flew out without any resistance. If it wasn't for Ping Tianjendi and Qi Tianjendi's quick reactions, catching Liunian Ling in midair, Liunian Ling would have been smashed out of the underground palace. Your Majesty, Great Sage Emperor Zetian, it's not appropriate for you to bully a junior like this. Heaven's Equal Jendi said with slight dissatisfaction after helping Liunian Ling up. Who wants her to dress us? My dragon body is a gift from the heavens, there is no need to hide it. Wu Zetian snorted coldly, and Liunian Ling's clothes exploded by themselves. Wu Zetian returned to her naked state. However, unlike Heaven's Equal Jendi and Ping Tianjendi, Wu Zetian did not seem to want to find clothes to wear. Instead, she wantonly displayed her perfect body in front of everyone, without any intention of hiding it. Your Majesty, 800 years have passed, and you still haven't changed at all. Odin smiled as he moved closer to Wu Zetian. At the same time, he put his hand on Wu Zetian's waist without any hesitation. Did I allow you to touch me? Wu Zetian's expression changed drastically, and she glared at Odin fiercely, scaring him so much that he quickly retracted his hand. Did I allow you to let go again? Wu Zetian's expression changed again. She then grabbed Odin's hand and placed it on her waist again. She touched Odin's white and tender face and smiled. Let's not be in a hurry. Tonight, I will spend the night with you. Thank you, Your Majesty, Odin said with a look of surprise. This character. Seeing the scene in front of him, the Jiyu Hanbu was speechless. Odin was the godly king of the Norse god system, while Wu Zetian was the Empress of China. How could the two of them be so shameless? It was as if they were an adulterous couple obsessed with the pleasures of the flesh. How could Sister Mai Niang be like this? She is not that kind of person, Liunian Ling said in an even more dazed manner. Miss Ling, don't mind her. Wu Zetian is just like this. We are already used to it. Heaven's Equal Jendi patted Liunian Ling's shoulder. Yes. In Wu Zetian's eyes, this world is different from ours. Ping Tian's Jendi continued to explain. Wu Zetian is a woman who was once an empress. She has 3 palaces, 6 courtyards, and 72 concubines. She also has a group of handsome male pets. With her status, she doesn't need to cover her body at all. For her, men are just playthings. She only needs to live in the state that she feels the most pleasurable. Even if this state is naked, she can copulate with any man she likes at any time. As for this Odin, I could not see through him 800 years ago, and I still can't see through him 800 years later. On the surface, he looks like an empress, but in reality, no one knows what he is thinking. Ping Tian's Jendi said to Gu Han. Ping Tian's grandson. Also, my Heaven's Equal grandson, long time no see. Did you miss great-grandmother? While they were talking about Wu Zetian took large strides and walked over to Jiyu Han. Seeing Wu Zetian walk over, even though Ping Tian and Qi Tian were 2 Jendis, they could not help but look afraid. Only Qi Tian's Jendi forced himself to pull himself together and said, Great Sage Emperor Zetian, if you make such a joke, don't bother about us. What joke? Did I say something wrong? Wu Zetian laughed as she said, not to mention the fact that I'm thousands of years older than you two. When you were first sent to my place, it was I who raised you two. You two are like my grandchildren. Don't you remember your granny's kindness? After saying that, Wu Zetian's hands reached into Heaven's Equal Sword Emperor's and Heaven's Equal Sword Emperor's clothes without any concealment. She groped around their chests. Do the two of you think you're so capable that you can disregard great-grandmother? Great Sage Emperor Zetian. All right, great-grandmother. If you really think you're our great-grandmother, then please let us go for the sake of great-grandmother's status. There are outsiders here. Ping Tian looked like he was about to cry because of Wu Zetian's touch. What a joke. When you two were having sex with great-grandmother, why didn't you say that there were outsiders with great-grandmother? After saying that, Wu Zetian's hands moved from the two sword emperors' upper bodies to their lower bodies. She reached into their pants and rubbed something. Ping Tian and Qi Tian, the two sword emperors, had awkward and sour expressions on their faces. At the same time, there was a lot of shame and anger. It seemed like their relationship with Wu Zetian was very complicated. Enough. Great sage Emperor Zetian. The heavens equal sword emperor had the fiercest temper. He slapped Wu Zetian's hand away and said with a cold expression, "Please show some respect. Otherwise, don't blame me for ignoring the kindness of raising you all those years ago." That's right. Great sage Emperor Zetian. Don't force and humiliate us too much. Ping Tian's Jendi also pushed Wu Zetian's hand away. Sigh. The children have grown up. They don't listen to their grandmother anymore. Sigh. Wu Zetian sighed. She did not force the two Jendis anymore. Liuyan Ling had already run away with Lu Shihua in the face of this wonderful performance. Only Guhan stood there calmly. Brother military governor. These are all old things. I'm really ashamed. Ping Tian's Jendi said to Guhan awkwardly. As for what the old things were, the two Jendis kept their mouths shut. Actually, even if the two Jendis didn't say anything, Guhan could guess a lot of things from their conversation. It seemed like after Yangjing City was destroyed, Drifting Goblet's Jendi had sent some of the human geniuses and sword ladies to Wu Zetian. After all, only Wu Zetian had the ability to protect the remaining human forces. While the romantic Wu Zetian protected the remaining human forces, she also played a game of grooming and training them. The two sword emperors, Heaven's Equal and Heaven's Equal, were probably the two playthings that Wu Zetian had groomed when she was young. It was probably at that time that the titles of great-grandmother and great-grandson appeared. It was just that these two playthings had extraordinary talent, and in the end, they actually became emperor sword wielders. At this time, the two sword emperors were no longer willing to talk about the humiliating period of time that they had spent as a man. Oh, I didn't notice that there's a handsome grandson here. Seeing that she couldn't take advantage of Ping Tian's and Jendi's, Wu Zetian turned her attention to Guhan. She looked at Guhan's body from head to toe and wanted to grope Guhan's chest, just like how she did to the two Jendis. You want to *CK me? Guhan grabbed Wu Zetian's hand that was about to reach his chest and reached out with his other hand without hesitation. He grabbed the beauty's small pear. TSK. My grandson has guts, unlike these two who don't even have the guts to do anything. Wu Zetian smiled. Come on, touch me if you like. I like your hand. That's right. It's not fair for you to enjoy it alone. I want to enjoy it as well. After speaking, Wu Zetian reached out to grab Guhan's lower body. It's easy if you want to have sex with me. However, Your Majesty, you need to get someone's permission first. Guhan blocked Wu Zetian's hand for the second time and said with a smile. Who is it? Do I need her permission to like anyone? Wu Zetian said unhappily. Oh, she's my wife. Her name is Yi Qing. She's right there. Guhan pointed at the place that was covered by his sword energy whirlpool. What? Wu Zetian was shocked. She rushed into the sword energy whirlpool without hesitation. After a while, she walked out with a pale face. She didn't dare to look at Guhan anymore. She didn't want to offend that scary woman, Yi Qing. Chapter 1319. Alright, now that all of you have been resurrected, let's sit down and discuss how to destroy Heaven Court and take revenge. Lu Ban walked to the middle of the 6 great sages and said. With the resurrection of the 6 great sages, the scene became very chaotic and terrible for a time. However, the old man Lu Ban was unexpectedly influential among the 6 great sages. When he finished speaking, the 6 great sages quieted down very respectfully. They each found a seat and sat down. It seemed that they were going to have a meeting. System: Hidden Dungeon Quest 6 completed. System: Hidden Dungeon Quest 7 generated. Please convince the 6 great sages to reach an agreement. As such a quest prompt rang in Guhan's ears, Guhan knew that it was almost impossible to count on the resurrected 6 great sages spontaneously working together to attack Heaven Court. Sure enough, although Luban still had the ability to get the 6 great sages to sit down for a meeting, when they really started to discuss, a huge difference of opinion emerged. Almost half of the great sages did not intend to risk their lives to attack Heaven Court after being resurrected. The one who objected the most was Wu Zetian. She coldly smiled and said that she had attacked the Heavenly Court back then because her head had been smashed by a hammer. She now understood that attacking the Heavenly Court would only lead to death. She wanted to enjoy her life and would not foolishly fight the Heavenly Court to the death. Wu Zetian's expression changed. Odin agreed with this. Just now, he walked around the remaining Yuan Ku but did not find a Yuan Ku belonging to the Norse pantheon. Through questioning, he learned that the entire Norse pantheon Yuan Ku was basically dead. Even if there were 1 or 2 kittens and puppies left, no one knew where they were hiding. Odin was disheartened by this result. Since there was no more Yuan Ku in his pantheon, there was no need for him to fight for any living space for them. As long as he tried his best to hide, the people of Heaven Court would not be able to find them. Odin and Wu Zetian were the 2 most powerful among the 6 great sages present. When the 2 of them expressed their opposition in unison, they occupied almost half of the power of the 6 great sages. Moreover, the Ottal king quickly said that the justice and life on this planet had completely withered. He wanted to return to Nebula M78. Seeing such a one-sided situation, the 2 sword emperors, Ping Tian and Qi Tian, could not help but fall into deep thought. In the beginning, they had supported launching another attack on the Heavenly Court. However, when they saw how fearful the great sages were, especially the extremely powerful Wu Zetian and Odin, who did not wish to continue fighting, the 2 sword emperors began to hesitate. Perhaps bringing the remnants of the human race to a small place to develop again was the right way to go. Among the 6 great sages, 5 of them had the idea of giving up. Only Orokai was clamoring to take revenge on the Heavenly Court. It was worthy of being a guy who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. However, this made things very troublesome. 5 of the 6 great sages did not want to take revenge. They only wanted to drag out an ignoble existence. Why would Guhan resurrect these great sages? Without the help of these great sages, how could they defeat the 5 desolate-level Yuan bandits of the Heavenly Court just by relying on the power of freezing? Gu Han recalled the contents of the strategy guide. It was indeed written in the strategy guide that the 6 great sages were unwilling to fight back against the Heavenly Court after they were resurrected. Hence, the players needed the strategy guide for each great sage to help them fulfill their regrets in their previous lives and increase their favorability. When the favorability reached 100, these great sages who were unwilling to fight back against the Heavenly Court would change their minds because of the player's personal charm. This was a very common trick in game dungeons. Regardless of the era and the game, there were countless players who worked tirelessly to complete some affinity quests in order to improve their affinity with a certain NPC. This was also the quest link with the most number of quests among the 200 quests. There were more than 80 quests. Guhan estimated that if he really followed the strategy guide to improve the affinity of these 6 great sages, he would not be able to complete so many quests even if he was given another month. Guhan looked at the time. At this time, there were only 27 hours left in a week. Once 27 hours passed, the human souls in this dungeon would begin to dissipate due to excessive consumption. Although Guhan did not care about these human souls, Songhammer's soul was among them after all. Guhan could not watch his brother die just like that. Obviously, it was no longer possible to farm affinity according to the official orthodox strategy. Guhan had to find another way to force these great sages to participate in the crusade against Heaven Court in a short period of time. Anyway, this dungeon itself had already fallen into extreme chaos. Completely breaking away from the normal quest path of the system was the right way. The best way was to find a strong opponent to suppress these 6 great gods who were terrified. If Guhan had an Emperor Sword level sword wielder. No, as long as he could have the level of an Immortal Sword level sword wielder, then Guhan would have the confidence to suppress everyone. However, the problem was that Guhan was only a spirit sword level sword wielder, so he needed the help of another person. It's just that Yi Qing has only grown by half, Guhan thought with some distress in his heart. Yi Qing's upper body had just grown, and it would take at least 5 or 6 hours for her whole body to be fully resurrected. By that time, these great sages would have already gone home. Thinking of this, Guhan got up silently, whispered a few words in Lu Ban's ear, and disappeared from everyone's sight. Since everyone's opinions are similar, then let's just disperse. When everyone's strength is stronger in the future, then we can think about revenge. Odin finally concluded. Of course, this was just a beautiful sentence. Among the 6 great sages present, except for Orokai who was too stupid, the other great sages were afraid of the heavenly court. As long as their lives were not in danger, they would not have the thought of seeking revenge on the heavenly court. This sentence was just to give himself a way out of this embarrassing situation. After all, it was a very shameful thing to flee in fear of the divine might of the heavenly court after his resurrection. Hearing Odin's words, the other great sages also nodded, got up one after another, opened the void, and prepared to flee for their lives. Ahem. Lu Ban could not help but cough and say, "Dear great sages, are you going to abandon us poor people like this? Great sages, are you going to abandon us?" Lu Ban was stunned. "Lord Lu Ban, what do you mean?" Odin asked in reply. "These juniors risked their lives and paid a heavy price to revive the 6 of you. Even if they didn't make any contributions, their hard work should be more than enough," Lu Ban said with grief and indignation. "Why did these juniors do this? Isn't it because they have had enough of Heaven Court's persecution and want to rely on the strength of all of you to win a free and safe future? The result of these juniors risking their lives is that you 6 lords are cowering here, running for your lives and only caring about yourselves. Then why did these juniors resurrect you?" "Lord Lu Ban, you can't say that." Hearing Lu Ban's words, apart from Orokai and Wu Zetian, the other 4 people could not help but feel a little embarrassed. "If we were strong enough, we would also want to take revenge on Heaven Court. But aren't we not strong enough? Besides, it's not that we don't want to take revenge. When the 6 of us are stronger, when we have a few more desolate level helpers, it won't be too late for us to take action. As the saying goes, plan before taking action. We can't be reckless," Odin explained with a serious face. "Good. You all make sense. You are all right." Lu Ban snorted coldly, "But there is something I forgot to tell you. The reason you were able to resurrect was because of the help of the 3 carnate items. However, the amount of Tai water was not enough. The peach tree of immortality is not fully grown yet. At most, in 2 or 3 years, your bodies will rapidly age and weaken. When that time comes, I'm afraid you won't even be able to open the void gate." "What?" The great sages were shocked. The void gate that was originally opened closed again. They quickly rushed to Lu Ban's side and asked sternly, "Lord Lu Ban, is what you said true? You can't lie to us. Why would I lie to you?" Lu Ban sneered. "If you don't believe me, whether it's sword essence, immortal power, divine power, or telekinesis, you can all circulate your power. See if it's very dry when it flows through your meridians, as if it's flowing through sand. This is because the amount of Tai water is not enough, and your meridians are not fully developed yet. That's why it's like this." The 6 great sages did not say anything. They immediately closed their eyes and began to feel their bodies. As a result, their faces all turned purple. The truth was just as Lu Ban had said. Their meridians were indeed very dry. Under normal circumstances, they could not feel it, but when their power circulated quickly, it was very obvious. "Old man Lu Ban, is there any way to solve this problem?" These great sages had finally been resurrected. How could they be willing to change back? Especially Wu Zetian, who grabbed Lu Ban's collar and asked. "Don't worry, there is still a way." Lu Ban smiled and pushed Wu Zetian's hand away, saying, "Since there isn't enough Tai water, we'll just have to replenish it." Lu Ban took out a bottle of Tai water from his body. "While your 9 young true fire is not extinguished, pour this bottle of Tai water on your bodies, and then train in the fire for a few hours. Let your bodies grow a little, and there will be no problem." Chapter 1320. All right. Wu Zetian did not say anything else. She grabbed a bottle of Tai water and prepared to return to her grave mound to smelt it again. Wait. There's something strange here. Odin sensed that something was wrong and pressed his hand on Wu Zetian's shoulder. Nothing strange. Don't make a fuss, Otel King said disdainfully. Don't you think that Lord Luban's bottle of Tai water is too simple and easy to give? Odin squinted his eyes and said. His words instantly enlightened the other 6 great sages. Luban's Tai water was indeed too easily given. There was no hesitation or exchange at all. He just handed it right in front of them. If it had been an hour ago, this would not have been strange. After all, Luban had gone through a lot of trouble to resurrect the 6 of them. There was full trust and affection between the 2 sides. But now, it was different. The 6 of them did not want to be enemies with the heavenly court, so Luban was obviously unhappy. Under such circumstances, if the other party handed over the Tai water so easily, he would be too stupid. Odin frowned at Luban and added, Old Master Luban, isn't this a little too strange? If what you said is true, then why didn't you give us enough Tai water from the beginning? Why did you torture us like this? I have some understanding of the 6 of you, and I can guess what you will do after your resurrection. So, because of your fear of the heavenly court, you don't want to help these poor juniors. I can guess that too. Luban's words made the 6 great sages blush. They did not expect Luban to see through them. If that's the case, why did Master Luban resurrect the 6 of us? Odin asked again. Because if we want to obtain true freedom, we cannot do without the 6 of you. Luban said calmly. So, I only added half of the Tai water to you. How about it? You won't blame me, right? That's right. This bottle of Tai water is only enough for one of you. If the 6 of you want to share it, it's not enough. The expressions of the 6 great sages were a little strange. They had already cursed Luban in their hearts, but they couldn't do it. Who asked Luban to resurrect them? With this kindness, they were too embarrassed to scold Luban. I know you're all cursing me in your hearts, but I don't care. I just want to make a deal with you. As long as you agree to my deal, I'll give you the rest of the supreme life water, Luban said. Lord Luban, please speak. Odin heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Luban's words. Using the Tai water in exchange for their compromise was a normal situation. It seemed that this matter was most likely true. Luban was indeed a cunning old fox. But old man Luban, let's make this clear first. If you want us to run to the heavenly court and die, then there's no need for this deal. Wu Zetian snorted coldly. Don't worry, I know you're all cowards. I don't expect you to have much courage. Luban sneered. I only have one thing to ask of you. I hope you can take the juniors in this underground palace with you when you escape. Give them temporary safety. Now that the heavenly court knows that your souls have all been freed from the place of suppression, I'm afraid that the Jade Emperor has also guessed the fact that you have been resurrected. He may not attack you, but he will definitely take cruel revenge on us juniors. This place is no longer safe, and I'm afraid our other strongholds are no longer safe either. Therefore, I hope that you can take away a portion of these juniors and protect them. I'll be satisfied if they are safe. Luban's face was full of sorrow when he said that. I agree. I have no objections. I agree too. Heavens equal Gendi and Heavens equal Gendi said at the same time. They were the most grateful among the 6 great sages. So, after hearing Luban's request, they immediately agreed without hesitation. I agree too. Odin agreed immediately. At the same time, the idea of rebuilding the Norse god system was gradually born in Odin's mind. He could choose some of these Yuan Ku guys with great potential and bring them back. Then, he could train them, brainwash them, and mate with them. Maybe he could recreate the Norse god system. Yes. Wu Zetian nodded. I also lack some eunuchs and maids to serve me. Although these guys are filthy, I can barely use them. With the approval of these 4, even if Ultron King and Orokai were a little reluctant, they could not go against Luban's wishes. Anyway, they were not going to risk their lives to protect them. If necessary, They could just leave them behind and escape. The most important thing now was to get the water of Tai from Lu Ban. Seeing that the 6 great sages agreed, Lu Ban showed a satisfied smile and took out 6 bottles of water of Tai. This time, Odin and the others did not doubt him again. They each took a bottle of water of Tai and rushed into the 9-yang real fire that had not yet extinguished. They began to refine their bodies. Master Lu Ban, how long do we need to refine our bodies? Odin suddenly asked. You can only come down when I tell you to, Lu Ban said lightly. The 6 great sages quieted down again. How could these bastards do this? We respected them so much and tried our best to help them resurrect. In the end, they ended up like this. Seeing that the 6 great sages had begun to refine their bodies, Artoria, who was full of resentment, walked to Lu Ban's side and said unwillingly. What had just happened was a big blow to Artoria. She never thought that these ancestors, who had been rumored for 800 years, would end up with such a hateful face. Calm down, Artoria. All creatures are born with this face. There's nothing strange about it, Lu Ban said calmly. But I can't accept it. Even if I saved a dog, it's still better than saving these 6 bastards. Artoria said bitterly. Master Lu Ban, with all due respect, you shouldn't have given them the remaining precious water of Tai. You let them escape and end up as useless trash. We don't need their protection, we can protect ourselves. Silly child. Lu Ban stroked Artoria's ahoj and smiled. You were the one who brought the Tai water here, and you saw it being used with your own eyes. Didn't you notice that something was wrong with it? This. Artoria froze for a moment and began to recall all the details. Her expression instantly froze, and she said hesitantly, Master, why do I feel that all the water of Tai I got has been used up? There's no extra. Of course there's no extra. Lu Ban laughed and whispered, in order to resurrect the 6 of them, I have already used up all the water of Tai. How can there be a second water of Tai? Then the 6 bottles just now, those 6 bottles are just plain water. They're not water of Tai. Fortunately, the water of Tai looks exactly the same as plain water, so they won't notice anything wrong. Lu Ban did not dare to laugh. He could only laugh softly, his eyes narrowing into a straight line. Then, Master, you must have lied to them. Of course, their bodies are made of peachwood, and peachwood is essentially just a piece of wood. When the meridians are made of wood, it's only natural for them to feel a little jerky. These guys are great sages, but in the end, they're just fools. They're being played around by me. Lu Ban laughed even more happily. Master, you're so bad. Artoria was also amused by Lu Ban. But after laughing, her face became worried again. My lord, you've fooled them by doing this, but it's of no practical use. When they come down from the burial mound and find that the meridian has not changed, they will not let you go. It's okay. What I'm doing is just buying time for someone. Lu Ban sighed and looked at the place where Guhan's sword energy was circling. I won't lie to you. The idea just now was not thought of by me, but by the military governor. The military governor told me that as long as I can find a way to delay him for 5 or 6 hours, when the 7th great sage is resurrected, he will have a way to change the whole situation. Master, how can you trust someone like him? He and the 7th great sage are clearly a couple, Artoria immediately said with dissatisfaction. I don't care what the relationship between the 2 of them is. I believe him, and that's enough. Lu Ban said domineeringly. Why do I feel that something is wrong? After an unknown amount of time, Odin, who had been immersed in the 9-yang true fire all this time, was the first to discover that something was wrong. Apart from being half dead from the heat, his meridians didn't feel any changes. They were still as jerky as before. Master Lu Ban, why are my meridians? There's nothing strange about it. Only at the moment when the water of supreme life is completely integrated into your body will the feeling of your meridians return to normal. You just have to wait patiently, Lu Ban said faintly. It did not sound strange at all. Odin reluctantly believed Lu Ban's words. But as time went by, the other great sages gradually felt that something was wrong, especially Orokai. This cold-blooded animal was most afraid of fire. After staying in the 9 true fire for a long time, he had almost been burned to a piece of snakeskin. You're lying to us. This bottle is only filled with water. Orokai could not help but jump out of the fire. He grabbed the bottle he had just discarded and swallowed it whole. Only then did he realize that the bottle was just a bottle of water. Hearing Orochi's words, all the great sages jumped out angrily and looked at Lu Ban angrily. Artoria was so scared that she hurriedly stood in front of Lu Ban. The whole situation was on the verge of exploding. Chapter 1321. Master Lu Ban, we respect you and thank you for saving us. But why did you lie to us? Odin stood up and asked with a smile. However, there was a chill in his smile. Lu Ban and Artoria could not help but feel a little afraid. I didn't lie to you. Lu Ban spread his hands and said with a wry smile, someone asked me to lie to you. Who? Who dares to do this? I will swallow his head alive. Orokai roared angrily. It's me. Orokai did not expect a voice to reply to him from behind. Everyone immediately looked in the direction of the voice and saw Guhan leisurely walking out of the Sword Chi whirlpool. He looked at the 6 great sages coldly. Brother military governor, you can't just say things like that. Pingtian Jendi and Chitian Jendi immediately said nervously when they saw Guhan appear. They were a little angry at the person who lied to them. However, when they saw Guhan taking the initiative to admit it, they became very nervous. Guhan was one of the most promising descendants of the human race. They absolutely did not want to see anything happen to Guhan. Now that Guhan took the initiative to admit that he lied to everyone, it was equivalent to taking all the blame on himself. He would instantly become the target of public criticism. Once the other 4 great sages wanted to kill Guhan, Pingtian and Chitian would have no choice but to escape with Guhan. I didn't say anything. I did ask Senior Lu Ban to do this, Guhan said with a smile. Pingtian and Chitian could only shake their heads with a wry smile. They had no idea what this little brother of theirs was trying to do. Very well. Since you have admitted it, then pay the price. Orokai had long been unhappy with Guhan because of his previous obstruction. At that time, if Pingtian Jendi and Chitian Jendi had not come out, Orokai would have probably killed Guhan. Now that Guhan had jumped out and angered everyone, Orokai would not let go of such a good opportunity. Countless tentacles stretched out, ready to crush Guhan alive. Orokai, don't. Pingtian Jendi and Chitian Jendi jumped out again to stop Orokai. Chitian, Pingtian, don't go too far. This person dared to trick us. Is it wrong for me to kill him? Orokai turned his eyes to Odin and the other great sages, hoping to get their support. Wait. Odin motioned for Orokai to calm down and turned to Ji Han. I'm curious. Why did you ask Senior Lu Ban to do this? What's in it for you? I don't have any other thoughts, I just hope that you can stay behind and follow me to attack the Heavenly Court. Ji Han said straightforwardly. Oh. The idea is good, but the action is wrong, Odin smiled and said. Odin laughed, if you wish for us to sweep through the Heavenly Court, then you should kneel before us and work hard to please us. Perhaps if our hearts soften, we will accompany you to sweep through the Heavenly Court. Do you think we will help a liar if you don't lie to us like you are doing now? Does Lord Odin think this is a clumsy lie? Ji Han laughed coldly. If this is a clumsy lie, then why did the 6 of you obediently run to the bonfire to warm yourselves? You. All the great sages were embarrassed when they heard Guhan's words. Then, they became angry. This Ji Han had actually slapped them in the face. Even Ping Tian and Chi Tian were angry at Ji Han. They felt that this junior was too insensible and lacked EQ. How could they entrust the future of humanity to this person's hands? Ji Han's face was filled with rage. Even Ping Tian and Chi Tian were furious at him. They felt that this junior was too insensible and lacked EQ. How could they entrust the future of humanity to this person? By the way, you also said that I am a liar. Guhan looked like he had seen a very funny joke. Who is the liar? Who deceived these poor descendants to do everything possible to resurrect himself? But when it was time to fulfill his promise, he ran away like a pig. This is the biggest liar, deceiving these pitiful people for a full 800 years. You. Orochi's face was stubborn and red. He was embarrassed and annoyed. He could no longer calm down after being poked by Guhan. Countless tentacles grabbed at Guhan like lightning. Disgusting thing. Guhan snorted coldly. He turned the Zhuxian sword in his hand and mobilized the rule power at the same time. These tentacles fell to the ground like loaches in front of Guhan. In the blink of an eye, all of them were cut off by Guhan. Ah! Orochi let out a cry of pain. These tentacles being cut off was actually not a very serious injury for Orochi. At most, it was to the extent of breaking the skin. However, the sharp pain of the tentacles being cut off made Orochi feel extreme pain. I must kill you. Orochi's flower slash. Orochi's tentacles began to recover quickly. The tentacles that were cut off grew again. Then, these tentacles merged with each other and soon evolved into hundreds of 40-meter-long broadswords. He can actually force Orochi to use his true strength. Seeing Orochi use Orochi's flower slash, Odin could not help but say in surprise. Orochi generally would not use this move unless it was in a battle of the same level. The reason was very simple. If it had to use such a move against an opponent of a lower level, then it would be too embarrassing for Orochi. But now, Orochi disregarded the fact that the opponent was a spirit sword level swordbearer and directly used Orochi's flower slash. Could it be that the strength of this human had reached the point where Orochi had to use its true strength, which was Yuan Ku, who was also at the great desolate level like them? Why bother? It's a waste of time. Seeing Orochi directly use Orochi's flower slash, there was no fear on Guhan's face. Instead, he said with an eager expression, "You guys might as well come at me together. I will send you back the way I resurrected you." Brother military governor, shut up. Don't talk like that. Apologize to everyone. Ping Tian and Qi Tian were anxious. This Guhan was provoking them. Even they wanted to beat up Guhan, let alone others. Therefore, Ping Tian and Qi Tian could only try their best to persuade Guhan to admit defeat. Thank you, seniors. Don't worry. I will send these 4 back. You two can continue to live in this world. Guhan said. Phut. Ping Tian and Qi Tian almost vomited blood. They really did not want to help such a person. Good. Very good. Ultra King was so angry that the light bulbs in his eyes were about to explode. He stood next to Orochi and said, "Orochi, leave this guy to me. I will send him on his way with King's light wave." Odin, who was gloomy and cunning, was also very angry at Guhan. He was about to teach Guhan a lesson. He was shocked to find that Wu Zetian, who was the most overbearing and violent woman, did not show any signs of anger. Instead, she took a few steps back and stood with Qi Tian and Ping Tian. She did not seem to have any intention of attacking Guhan. There must be something wrong here. Odin reacted instinctively. The anger in his mind instantly disappeared. He followed Wu Zetian and took a few steps back. Since Wu Zetian did not attack, there was no need for him to attack. As a result, Heaven's Equal and Heaven's Equal and Heaven's Equal and Heaven's Equal realized that Odin and Wu Zetian had chosen to stand with them. This puzzled the 2 sword emperors. What are you two doing? Ultra King also noticed that something was wrong. On the other side, Orochi could not hold back anymore. Hundreds of tentacles that were more than 40 meters long slashed at Guhan from all directions. They were as fast as lightning. On the other side, Guhan did not move. It was as if he did not care about Orochi's attack at all. You are asking for it. Orochi became even more frenzied. Orochi, how dare you bully my husband? How dare you? Suddenly, a clear and angry voice echoed through the underground palace. She's here. She really did attack. Hearing this voice, Wu Zetian's expression froze. Then, a look of relief appeared on her face. It was as if she was glad that she did not choose to attack. This Wu Mainyang, why is she? Odin saw Wu Zetian's reaction and suddenly felt that things were very strange. At the same time, he felt as if he had heard this voice somewhere before. It was so familiar that he felt fear from the depths of his soul. Could it be her? Just as the figure of a woman appeared in Odin's mind, Countless sword lights filled the entire underground palace. When the sword lights faded, Orokai, who had been standing in place, had disappeared. All that was left were countless pieces of flesh on the ground. 8 heads with terrified expressions kept moving on the ground. The pieces of flesh around them were trying to get closer to Orochi's heads. Only by completely destroying all of Yamato no Orochi's heads would it be able to resurrect with its own power sooner or later. Such an injury would not be able to completely harm Yamato no Orochi's foundation. But as soon as the opponent's sword chi appeared, Yamato no Orochi's body was completely torn apart. If this kind of strength was used against a universal level bandit, that universal level bandit would probably not survive for more than 5 seconds. It should be known that even if Odin wanted to kill his brother Loki, who was a universe rank Yuan Ku, it was difficult. He had let Loki escape time and time again. If the owner of the sword energy had attacked, Loki would not have been able to escape. Orokai, do you want to die again? A foot wearing sneakers stepped on Orochi's head. I don't dare. Your Majesty shrouding heaven. I really don't dare. Orochi's head said miserably. He was a desolation rank Yuan Ku, but he ended up like this. It was really sad. Chapter 1322. Long time no see, everyone. Yi Qing raised his head and scanned everyone with his eagle-like eyes. The great sages who met Yi Qing's gaze could not help but lower their heads. They did not dare to look directly at Yi Qing. It was as if they were mice that had seen a cat. Zetian, there are 6 of us here today, but you are alone. We can kill you if we join forces, Ultron King said loudly, but there was a sense of guilt in his voice. What a joke. Yi Qing sneered disdainfully. You are so afraid of the current heavenly court that you want to escape. Do you still dare to be presumptuous in front of me? Yi Qing's words made the others shut their mouths. They could not help but recall the battle 800 years ago. They suddenly became terrified. This did not seem right. According to Lu Ban, in the battle 800 years ago, Yi Qing cooperated with the 2 desolation-level Yuan Ku to barely resist the attack of the 6 great sages. Later, when the heavenly court's reinforcements returned, it led to the final defeat. Could it be that the battle 800 years ago was not like what Lu Ban said? There was more to it than meets the eye. If the 6 of you want to fight, I will accompany you anytime. Yi Qing kicked the head of Orokai away. Orochi's head rolled like a ball and finally fell in a corner. The limbs on the ground moved quickly and crawled towards the head. Yi Qing was not sure what was going on. All right. You can start now. Let me see if you still have the blood of 800 years ago, Yi Qing said coldly. The entire underground palace was silent. None of the 6 great sages dared to speak. Yi Qing's words alone had completely suppressed 6 opponents of the same level. The fear in the hearts of these great sages could be imagined. Is this really the little woman in the igloo the other day? Artoria was speechless. She could not associate the domineering woman in front of her with the woman who was as gentle as a willow in March when she faced Guhan in the igloo. Perhaps this is the woman who is worthy of the military governor, Artoria thought to herself. Qing, don't be like this. I think we can still sit down and talk. Finally, a voice broke the deadlock on the surface. Guhan slowly walked to Yi Qing's side and said to Yi Qing, "That's right. We can sit down and talk." Odin was the first to respond, and was the first to follow up on Guhan's words. "That's right. I heard that you, Zetian, were tricked by the Heavenly Court's people. We're all enemies of the Heavenly Court, so why do we have to be enemies? Can't we just sit down and talk?" Wu Zetian said. "Yes. That's right. Let's talk it out. Let's talk about it." On the other side, Orochi's body finally came back. It walked back carefully, raised its tentacles and said, "We are all partners of justice. Everyone was a hero. They are all heroes. Out of the 6 great sages, 4 of them had made their stand. Only Pingtian Jendi and Heaven's equal Jendi had a strange expression on their faces. They did not seem willing to talk to Yi Qing. Logically speaking, Yi Qing was the same as these 2 Jendi. They were all pure-blooded humans, so there should not be such a conflict between them. But looking at Pingtian Jendi and Heaven's equal Jendi, it seemed like they had a deeper grudge against Yi Qing. That's good. Since everyone is willing to talk, then let's sit down and talk. Yi Qing nodded. The other great sages felt as if they had been pardoned, and finally sat down together, then fell into silence again. Yi Qing did not speak, and the other great sages did not even have the courage to speak. I want to take revenge on the heavenly court, Yi Qing said calmly. Back then, after I killed you, the heavenly court took advantage of the fact that I had used up most of my power to gang up on me. I was attacked from all sides, and in the end, I had no choice but to explode my own soul and hide under Kunlun Mountain, just like all of you, until my husband resurrected me today. I have to take my revenge. Are you all willing to come with me? Everyone hesitated. After a long time, Odin said, if what you say is true, Your Majesty Zetian, we are naturally willing to attack the heavenly court with Your Majesty Zetian, but you know what happened back then. You have already betrayed us once. How can we trust you a second time? That's where you're wrong. Yi Qing laughed coldly. I did not betray you back then. I have always been a member of the heavenly court. I was only willing to work with you because the heavenly court gave me a mission. It's funny that I trusted the heavenly court so much. I really thought that they would be able to create a harmonious human world. I did not expect to end up like this. I will definitely return this debt to the heavenly court. Betrayal is betrayal. Don't make it sound so nice. It's just that you were betrayed. Heaven's equal Jendi stood up and shouted. Heaven's equal Jendi was startled. He immediately pressed his brother down and whispered, Are you crazy? You argued with her. She's going to kill you. Ari. Hearing Heaven's equal Sword Emperor's words, Yi Qing sighed and finally stood up. He bowed to the 6 great sages and said in a sincere voice, I'm sorry for what happened in the past. I apologize to everyone. Please forgive my stupidity. Heavens. Zetian Jendi actually apologized to me. Everyone looked at each other. In their memories, Zetian Jendi was a very arrogant woman. They had never seen her apologize to anyone before. But now, she was bowing to them. Just this apology alone was enough to dispel most of the suspicions and hostility in the 6 great sages' hearts. If not for the fact that Zetian Jendi knew that she was wrong, she would never have apologized. Lord Lu Ban, what's going on? Why is it that what I heard is completely different from what I know? Artoria was confused. She could not understand why the 6 great sages would say that Yi Qing had betrayed them. But looking at Yi Qing's sincere apology, it seemed to be the truth. Ari. I knew it wasn't as simple as it seemed. Lu Ban spread his hands and revealed a strange expression. Don't ask me. Because they were afraid that the secret would be leaked, the 6 great sages planned it alone. We were only responsible for cooperating with them. Let me tell you what happened back then. Guhan walked up to Artoria. While Yi Qing was chatting with the others, he said to Artoria and Lu Ban, actually, it wasn't 6 great sages who planned the rebellion. It was 7 great sages. Guhan said faintly. This was the story he had heard from Yi Qing. It turned out that Yi Qing's existence was not a secret. At that time, the 6 great sages already knew that there was a human emperor sword wielder in the celestial court. As for the reason, Yi Qing had come to them herself. At that time, Yi Qing had taken the initiative to find Heaven's equal Jendi. After revealing her identity as an emperor sword wielder, although Heaven's equal Jendi had some doubts, he had taken the initiative to accept Yi Qing and chatted with her. Yi Qing told Heaven's equal Jendi that she was a sword celestial who had been trained by the celestial court since she was young. She had never known the truth about humans. She only knew that she had met a human sword wielder. Just as she was about to kill this demon, the sword wielder had used his identity to tell Yi Qing the truth. At that point, Yi Qing had developed a deep suspicion about humans and herself. She had looked up a lot of information and ruins and finally discovered a shocking truth. Humans were actually a race that had been enslaved by the celestial court. She was not a sword celestial, but a human sword wielder. She had been brainwashed by the celestial court. With this discovery, Yi Qing had found Heaven's equal Jendi. She had clearly expressed her hope that the two of them would work together to eliminate the hypocritical celestial court in one fell swoop. As Yi Qing had already told the truth about humans, Heaven's equal Jendi had instinctively believed her. It was like a wolf child who had been raised by wolves. Suddenly, she had taken the initiative to tell you that she had discovered that she was actually a human and wanted to return to the human world. You would definitely not doubt her words. After all, it was natural for her to return to the human race. Therefore, Heaven's equal Jendi had called Heaven's equal Jendi to Mount Huagua. After the three of them had a discussion, they began to contact the other great sages. In the end, humans and the remaining 6 great sages of Yuan Ku had all united together and began the plan to destroy the celestial court. During this period, Yi Qing had taken the initiative to show her strength to the 6 great sages. The 6 great sages were very encouraged. They felt that with the 7 of them, it would be very easy to destroy the celestial court. They all agreed to this plan. In the end, Yi Qing told everyone that she would continue to lurk in the celestial court and pretend that she had not discovered her identity. She hoped that the 6 great sages would not reveal her secret. The 6 great sages executed this very well. None of them revealed the existence of Yi Qing. Therefore, later generations did not know that Yi Qing was actually the 7th great sage. On the day of the agreed general attack, the 6 great sages easily broke into the celestial court with Yi Qing's support and started a battle with the 2 celestial emperors of the celestial court who stayed there. The 2 celestial emperors were no match for the 7 great sages at all. In the blink of an eye, they were about to kill each other. When everyone felt that victory was in sight, Yi Qing suddenly stabbed her compatriot, Heaven's equal Jendi. Heaven's equal Jendi, who was caught off guard, was severely injured on the spot. At this time, Yi Qing's true face was revealed. It turned out that she was a double-sided spy. She was the bait deliberately thrown out by the celestial court to lure the 6 great sages to send themselves to their deaths. But when everything was revealed, the void of the entire celestial court had been completely sealed. The 6 great sages could no longer escape from the celestial court. Chapter 1323. Next, Yi Qing cooperated with the celestial court's desolate grade Yuan Ku to counterattack the 6 great sages. However, the 2 celestial emperors of the celestial court had been seriously injured in the previous battle. In the end, they could only serve as a distraction. Yi Qing was fighting 6 great sages on her own. It was only at this moment that these great sages saw how terrifying Yi Qing's strength was. She could suppress 6 great sages on her own. These were 6 Yuan Ku of the same level. Not only could Yi Qing suppress them, but she could also gain the upper hand. Such a performance had surpassed the traditional Emperor Sword-level swordbearers. The 6 great sages even suspected that Yi Qing's strength might have broken through Emperor Sword-level swordbearers and reached the legendary level. It was also during this battle that the fear of Yi Qing was deeply imprinted in the hearts of these 6 great sages. They were imprinted with the impression that Yi Qing could not be defeated. Later, with the return of the other 3 celestial emperors, there was no more suspense in the battle. In the end, the 6 great sages used self-destruction to break through the celestial court seal on the void. Their souls collapsed and were suppressed in various places. So there was such a story back then. After listening to Guhan's narration, Artoria's expression was one of surprise. She did not expect there to be such a hidden history 800 years ago. She did not expect Yi Qing's strength to be so terrifying. She could fight 6 great sages on her own. She was simply a god among gods and demons. Your Majesty Shu Tian, since you have apologized to us, we are willing to trust you a little more. We want to ask you, what happened to you after we self-destructed? Odin asked. Me? Yi Qing laughed self-deprecatingly. After the battle with you, my sword essence was almost exhausted. Then, the 5 people of the celestial court launched a sneak attack on me from behind. They defeated me, who had lost my sword essence. In the end, I ended up self-destructing like all of you. So that's what happened. In fact, I've already reminded you during the battle. Odin nodded with a sorrowful and puzzled look on his face. I told you back then that you can't trust the people of the heavenly court. After you helped them defeat us, they'll immediately attack you. But I just don't understand why you didn't believe me back then and insisted on working for the Heavenly Court. Because I have no conflict of interest with the Heavenly Court. Yi Qing hesitated for a moment before replying. How is this possible? You are a human, and the Heavenly Court is Yuan Ku. The conflict between the two of you is innate and irreconcilable. Moreover, without the main conflict between us and the Heavenly Court, the conflict of interest between you and the Heavenly Court is inevitable. It is impossible that it does not exist. Odin said firmly. What if I join the Heavenly Court after killing all of you and become the Heavenly Court's sixth Heavenly Emperor, Central Earth Great Emperor? Yi Qing said calmly. What? The 6 great sages' expressions changed drastically. They never imagined that the Heavenly Court would give Yi Qing such a condition. The Heavenly Court had 5 desolate-level Yuan Ku Great Emperors, which meant that the Heavenly Court had 5 Heavenly Emperors. One of them was the Central Jade Emperor, named Hao Tian. This was the same title as Yangjing City's previous Jendi. The second was the Western Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity, named North Star. The third was the Northern North Pole Middle Sky Emperor of Polarity, named Bo Ikao. The fourth was the Southern South Pole Longevity Emperor, named South Pole Immortal Wang, a disciple of Old Lord Taishang. The fifth was the Eastern East Pole Viridescent Light Emperor, named Xiaohao. He was Hao Tian's younger brother. These 5 heavenly emperors occupied the east, west, north, south, and center directions. This meant that they ruled over the entire primitive universe. This was a rule that had been passed down since ancient times. The Heavenly Court only had these 5 heavenly emperors. There had never been a time when there were 6 heavenly emperors. This Jade Emperor had actually broken the rules and forcibly created the 6th Central Earth Great Emperor. In terms of title, he was actually on par with the Central Jade Emperor. His position was even higher than the other 4 heavenly emperors. This was equivalent to giving Yi Qing a position that was second only to the Heavenly Court. It was no wonder that the 6 great sages' expressions changed drastically. They even looked a little jealous. If the Heavenly Court had been willing to give the 6 of them the same conditions, they would probably have rushed over and sat in their positions with peace of mind. They wouldn't have cared about the lives of others. No. Even if the Heavenly Court gave you such a position, you should also know that you are a human being. The positions given by the Heavenly Court are all empty. You can be promoted by them, but you can also be beaten down by them. You won't be so stupid. After the initial envy, jealousy, and hatred, Odin quickly reacted. The position of the 6th Heavenly Emperor was just a lollipop used to deceive children. It was impossible for Yi Qing not to see the trick in it. I am indeed different from those Heavenly Emperors of the Heavenly Court. The people of the Heavenly Court are unlikely to believe me. But if I send my true spirit to the deification list, the Heavenly Emperors of the Heavenly Court will be 100% at ease with me. Yi Qing replied. What? You actually want to send your true spirit to the deification list? Are you crazy? You give up your freedom and want to be a slave to the Jade Emperor, Odin said in disbelief. The other 5 great sages were also surprised. Obviously, they didn't understand why Yi Qing would do this. Other than agreeing to this condition? Is there any other way for me to make the Heavenly Court trust me? Yi Qing said with a wry smile. Everyone was speechless. Indeed, this was the only way to make the Heavenly Court trust Yi Qing. Other than that, the Heavenly Court would never trust Yi Qing. The deification list was an important tool for the whole Heavenly Court to be united and not betray. All the immortals of the Heavenly Court sent a trace of their true spirit to the deification list, which was under the control of the Jade Emperor. As long as the deification list was in his hands, the Jade Emperor could destroy the true spirit in the deification list at any time. Once the true spirit was destroyed, no matter how strong those immortals were, they would be turned into ashes in an instant. There was no chance of them surviving. Therefore, the immortals of the Heavenly Court were extremely loyal to the Jade Emperor. It couldn't be helped. After all, their lives were in the hands of the Jade Emperor. The fact that Yi Qing was willing to send his true spirit to the investiture of the gods meant that he had completely placed his life in the hands of the Jade Emperor. He had truly become a member of the heavenly court. The Jade Emperor would no longer have to worry about Yi Qing's loyalty. The distrust between them would also disappear. It was no wonder that Yi Qing would completely trust the heavenly court and not be on guard against them. Yi Qing had already chosen to be a slave of the heavenly court, even if the slave was a central celestial emperor. But if that's the case, why did the heavenly court want to kill you? This doesn't make sense. Since you were willing to join the deification list, the heavenly court had no reason to kill you. Don't they want a sharp sword like you that won't cut themselves? Odin asked in disbelief. First of all, I didn't send my true spirit into the deification list at that time. Once I did, I definitely couldn't hide it from your eyes. You definitely wouldn't believe me. So when I defeated you, I wasn't a member of the heavenly court yet. Secondly, it's probably because the strength I've displayed scared them. Yi Qing smiled bitterly. After I was ambushed by the Jade Emperor, I asked them the same question. Why weren't they willing to believe me? I was clearly willing to send my true spirit into the deification list. In the end, Hao Tian told me that I was too strong, so strong that I had already reached the critical point of controlling the deification list. If I were given a few hundred more years to cultivate, the deification list wouldn't be able to trap my true spirit. In order to be safe, they could only kill me when I was exhausted. What? The deification list couldn't trap you? Oh my God! Is your strength already that terrifying? Legend has it that the deification list has twice the sealing power of its controller. In other words, unless one's strength exceeds the Jade Emperor's by twice, they won't be able to escape the deification list's control. Odin murmured to himself in a daze. Yi Qing's words once again shocked all the Yuanko present to the point that they couldn't close their mouths. But thinking about it carefully, this was a matter of course. The Jade Emperor himself was a desolate grade origin bandit who could fight against 3 great sages alone. If he wanted to break free from the investiture of the god's control, he would need to have twice the strength of the Jade Emperor. In other words, Yi Qing had already reached the level where he could fight against 6 great sages alone. This had already been proven by Yi Qing's battle with the 6 great sages. No wonder the Jade Emperor was so afraid of Yi Qing. He didn't even trust the deification list and directly ordered Yi Qing to be killed. I didn't expect that the reason you died in the end was because you were too strong, Wu Zetian whispered. At the same time, she felt a burst of shame in her heart. He would die because he was too weak. But Yi Qing died because she was too strong. What the hell was this? Wu Zetian's words also caused the other 6 great sages to feel the same way. Yes, they lowered their heads in shame. No, I didn't die because I was too strong. Yi Qing shook his head and said, on the contrary, I'm still too weak. If I could defeat all 11 of you by myself, I would be able to live. So, the reason why I died is because I'm too weak. Well, after Yi Qing said this, the great sages present were even more ashamed. They couldn't even lift their heads. However, Heaven's equal Jendi suddenly raised his head and looked at Yi Qing with anger and confusion. He asked, why? Why did you have to be the celestial emperor of the heavenly court? Why did you betray your own race? Chapter 1324. One could imagine how much pain the Heaven's equal sword emperor felt when he asked this question. He was the one who led Yi Qing to join the alliance of the 6 great sages. He was the one who watched Yi Qing stab the blade of betrayal into his own heart. He was the one who watched Yi Qing force everyone into a desperate situation. He had been suffering from Yi Qing's betrayal for the past 800 years. That was why Jendi asked this question. He wanted to know why Yi Qing had betrayed her own people. I did not betray my people. My heart has always been with the humans. From the beginning to the end. Yi Qing was very calm in the face of Jendi's question. It was as if he was eating and drinking. You liar. You wanted to join the heavenly court and become the 6th heavenly emperor. You even wanted to join the gods list and become the heavenly court's dog. You betrayed the 6 of us and the entire human race. You're just a greedy and vain woman. What right do you have to say that your heart is with us humans? Yi Tian practically shouted out these words from her own throat. I have no reason to lie to you. My heart will always be with the humans. I am doing this for them. Yi Qing let out a long sigh. His tone softened slightly as he asked the Heaven's Equal Sword Emperor, Your Majesty, let me ask you. If we had really defeated the Heavenly Court 800 years ago and killed all the Heavenly Emperors in the Heavenly Court, what would we humans have gained? Freedom, of course. We would be free from the Heavenly Court's control and brainwashing. We would regain our own freedom. Heaven's Equal Jendi answered without hesitation. But if we had defeated the Heavenly Court, would we really have freedom? Yi Qing asked. Yi Qing's question made Jendi choke. He waited for a while before replying, We could rebuild Beijing City. With Beijing City, we would be free. Even if we defeated the Heavenly Court and rebuilt Beijing City, so what? Yi Qing continued to interrogate. We've just returned to the past. All humans continue to hide in Yangjing City, watching the Yuan coup wreaking havoc outside in fear. Our sword bearers will return to the past and fight the Yuan coup endlessly for 1,000 years. As Yi Qing spoke, he pointed to the other 6 non-human great sages. The moment we defeat the Heavenly Court, these 4 people will be like the 5 celestial emperors in the past. They will turn their spears in an instant and aim their sharp blades at us, killing us completely, just like what the Heavenly Court did to me in the past. No, how could we do that? After listening to Yi Qing's words, the other 4 great sages quickly waved their hands and denied it. However, from the awkward expressions on their faces, it seemed that they really did have such thoughts in their hearts. After all, the humans and Yuan coup had only joined forces because of the situation, and because of the existence of a colossal being like the Heavenly Court. If the Heavenly Court fell, the humans and Yuan coup would immediately return to being mortal enemies. There would be no friendship to speak of. No problem. Even if the 4 of them dare to make a move, with the 3 of us joining forces, who knows who will be eliminated? Heaven's Equal Jendi said unwillingly. Indeed, Yi Qing alone could deal with 6 great sages. If Heaven's Equal Jendi and Heaven's Equal Jendi were by Yi Qing's side, the remaining 4 great sages would definitely not be Yi Qing's match. These cunning humans. Upon hearing Heaven's Equal's words, the other 4 Yuan coup great sages, who were feeling a little ashamed, immediately clenched their fists. At the same time, cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. Yes, if they had dared to make a move at that time, the 4 of them would probably have died instead. Even if we killed the 4 of them, so what? The dimensional rifts will continue to appear, and new Yuan coup great sages will enter this world. However, our lifespans are not endless. While we are alive, we can suppress the heavens and give humans freedom. However, after we die, the Yuan coup great sages will make a comeback, and humans will never be able to obtain true freedom. Yi Qing's words caused Heaven's Equal Jendi and Heaven's Equal Jendi to sink into deep thought. They had to admit that Yi Qing's words did make sense. Therefore, after I discovered the truth about humans 800 years ago, I thought hard for a long time and realized that what humans actually needed was not freedom but safety. Safety is always ranked above freedom. This is the most important thing. If humans lost their lives, what was the point of freedom? After that, I discovered that, after being brainwashed by the Heavenly Court, apart from losing a certain amount of freedom, humans were actually surprisingly safe. The Heavenly Court would no longer kill humans. Instead, they could provide humans with a relatively safe area so that humans could leave the protection of the city walls and obtain personal freedom and safety within a certain range. This was what humans truly needed. Later on, I understood that the Heavenly Court was actually not the enemy of humans. Instead, it could act as the protector of humans. As long as the Heavenly Court was powerful enough to expand to the entire Earth, the freedom and safety of humans could similarly extend to the entire Earth. All humans had to pay was a meager price and faith. I've looked up information from before the Great Calamity. During the Middle Ages, humans lived in a world where humans and gods intermingled. The gods were high and mighty and were worshipped by humans, while humans could obtain relative safety by praying for the gods' blessings. This pattern had been going on for thousands of years during the Middle Ages, and humans were already used to it. Countless humans in the Middle Ages pursued the pinnacle of life, such as ascending to immortality. Those gods did not cause any harm to humans and instead protected them. Isn't this the most suitable method for humans? Isn't this the method that can give humans the greatest safety and freedom? All I'm doing is returning humans to the Middle Ages where humans and gods intermingled. Moreover, as long as I can join the heavenly court and become the great emperor of the earth in the center of the heavenly court, I can obtain eternal life as well. As long as I'm in the heavenly court, I can protect humans from being exploited and oppressed by the heavenly court. I can protect the safety of the entire human race. This is the true safety and eternal way for humans. Therefore, in order to realize this dream of mine, I need to join the heavenly court and gain its trust. I need to become one of the supreme beings in the heavenly court. Therefore, I need to use your lives to prove my worth. Even if I have to sacrifice the only two Gendi, I won't hesitate. At this point, Yi Qing's speech finally ended. All the 6 great sages were silent. Among them, the 2 Gendi were probably the most at a loss and the most confused. They believed what Yi Qing said because deep down in their hearts, they always felt that Yi Qing was a woman who fought for the sake of humanity. She would not betray the entire human race for her own benefit. However, they could not figure out the reason for Yi Qing's betrayal. Now that they heard Yi Qing's words, they finally understood why Yi Qing would betray them. At the same time, although they were reluctant, they vaguely felt that Yi Qing was right. She was right. What she said was indeed the best home for the human race. She had betrayed them for the sake of humanity. At this thought, Ping Tian and Qi Tian's minds were in a mess. They did not know what to say or do. They did not know if they should treat Yi Qing as a friend or an enemy. Therefore, the entire underground palace fell into silence. No one stood up to break the silence until Guhan spoke. What about now? Qing, do you still have the same idea as before? Do you want to build a theocratic society like the Middle Ages? Guhan stood up and asked Yi Qing. No, I don't. I've thought it through. I was too naive back then. I thought that building a theocratic society would allow humans to live in peace. However, I've forgotten one thing. Yi Qing replied. What did you forget? Qi Tian Gendi raised his head and asked. I forgot. Back then, our ancestors put in a lot of effort to break free from the theocratic society of the Middle Ages. They obtained freedom of thought and will. In just a few hundred years, they surpassed the human race's development over thousands of years. A theocratic society might have its benefits, but it's also like a shackle that will firmly lock the human race down. Although humans will be safe, they will forever lose the possibility to develop and move forward. My actions might be beneficial for the time being. However, in the long run, after thousands or tens of thousands of years, humans will hate me as the ancestor who shackled them. Be it suffering or death, these are all experiences that humans must go through. Once humans can break free from this tragic world and eliminate all their enemies, they will be able to break free from the cocoon and be reborn. Just like the great changes that the first industrial revolution brought to mankind, mankind will step into a brand new era. Yi Qing. After listening to Yi Qing's words, Qi Tian Gendi and Ping Tian Gendi's expressions instantly became extremely excited. They looked at Yi Qing with bright eyes as if they were completely convinced by Yi Qing. Yes, that's right. Qi Tian Gendi and Ping Tian Gendi were completely convinced by Yi Qing's words. They took the initiative to stand beside Yi Qing and stretched out their right hands to Yi Qing. Yi Qing stretched out his left hand and grasped both of their hands tightly. Then what should we do? It seems like we have another powerful opponent, the human race. The remaining 4 great sages of Yuanko smiled wryly and said to each other warily. At the same time, they began to observe their surroundings, trying to find a way to retreat. If Yi Qing, Qi Tian, and Ping Tian were to join forces, they would be nothing more than cannon fodder. The 4 of you, don't go. I still have something to say to you. Yi Qing noticed the 4 great sages' actions and took the initiative to walk in front of them. Qi Tian and Ping Tian followed behind Yi Qing silently as if they were his subordinates. I plan to destroy the heavenly court. Yi Qing said calmly, I need your strength. I can swear on my sword mark that after the heavenly court is destroyed, as long as the 4 of you don't attack humans, the three of us won't attack you either. I've said it before, the three of us will die in the end. After all, this is the world of the later generations. Let our later generations deal with the four of you. What you said is true. You really won't attack us? Hearing Yi Qing's words, the four great sages immediately asked impatiently. What they were most afraid of now was that Yi Qing would attack them. This kind of fear was even greater than the fear of the heavenly court. Of course, as long as you are willing to join forces with us to destroy the heavenly court, Yi Qing said. Deal. After looking at each other for a while, the six great sages finally reached a consensus again. The mission to destroy the heavenly court could finally be carried out. At this time, there were less than 24 hours left of the week. Chapter 1325. There were only 24 hours left, so Yi Qing immediately said that they would attack the heavenly court now. Odin and the other great sages were worried about this. It was better for them to prepare a more appropriate battle plan. Yi Qing gave a domineering answer. With me here, what battle plan do you need? The great sages were speechless. But on second thought, this was indeed the truth. With Yi Qing, who could fight against six of them, and the six of them, the heavenly court would not be able to hold on no matter what. In layman's terms, as long as ace went up, they would win. Just as everyone was about to charge toward the celestial court, the enemy came to them on their own. The scouts around the underground palace sent an urgent message. 100,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals were pressing down on the entire Xianyang airport like dark clouds. Hurry up and move. Everyone, run. Hearing this news, the Yuan bandits instantly became extremely panic-stricken. Like headless flies, they scurried around the entire underground palace, planning to escape from here. All of you, stop. Lu Ban shouted, and the entire underground palace fell silent. Comrades, why are you panicking? Lu Ban's voice was full of vigor. He did not sound like a white-haired old man at all. Running for our lives is a thing of the past. Now that we have the great sages again, we don't need to run away this time. We'll fight head-on with these heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals at Xianyang Airport. We will avenge the 800 years of humiliation. Reporting, Your Majesty, a large number of demons have gathered at the Xianyang Airport. They are in formation at the same time. There are more than 100,000 of them. Above the clouds in the sky, the clairvoyant and clairaudient reported to the celestial emperors sitting on 5 cloud chairs. Among them, the celestial emperor sitting in the middle wore a golden imperial robe, while the other 4 celestial emperors wore white, red, green, and purple imperial robes respectively, representing the west, south, east, and north celestial emperors. Ha. These ants actually jumped out and even dared to form a formation. I thought they would scatter like usual. Green Emperor Xiaohao said disdainfully. Green Emperor, don't be careless. These demons are acting out of character. They actually took the initiative to fight. This means that they already have the confidence to fight. We have to be careful. Red Emperor South Pole Immortal said cautiously. That's right. According to the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals of the Thunder Department, the remnant souls of the 6 great guarding places have all disappeared without a trace. The subordinates we left there have all been killed. It seems like the rumors are true. These people have been trying to resurrect the 6 idiots from back then, White Emperor Go Chen said. We are the masters of kings, and the rest of them are just a bunch of monsters. 800 years ago, we were able to destroy their souls, and 800 years later, we're nothing more than that. As long as we, the masters of kings, come forth in an upright manner, these monsters won't even be able to withstand a single blow, and they'll all be reduced to ashes. Purple Emperor Bo Ikao said in a dignified but somewhat rigid manner. They actually took the initiative to jump out and fight with me. This is beyond my expectations. The Jade Emperor, Hao Tian, who was sitting in the middle, finally said, I thought these 6 fellows were scared out of their wits and would run away as soon as they were resurrected. Now, looking at the formation these demons have formed, it seems they have chosen to fight us head-on instead of running away. This is indeed out of my expectation. Yes. We've set up the inescapable snare formation in more than half of Shaanxi province in order to catch them one by one. Who would have thought that after waiting for a day or two, we still have to deal with them with such great fanfare? South Pole Immortal Wang said with a wry smile. It turned out that the Heavenly Court had long been aware of the 6 Yuan Ku's plan to resurrect, and had long known about the secret base under Xianyang Airport. However, after all, they had been enemies for so long. The 5 celestial emperors of the Heavenly Court had long seen through the minds of these 6 Yuan Kus. They knew that they didn't have the guts to fight the Heavenly Court at all, and would definitely run away and hide in a safe place. Therefore, the Heavenly Court had set up the inescapable snare formation in more than half of Shaanxi province. They wanted to trap the 6 great sages in the formation while they were running away, and then concentrate their forces to destroy them one by one, easily strangling the 6 great sages. As a result, after waiting for almost 2 days, the inescapable snare formation did not gain anything useful except for killing some useless Yuan Ku minions. The 5 celestial emperors naturally thought that they had estimated wrongly. They felt that these 6 great sages still had some intelligence, so they could only turn a hidden arrow into a spear in the open. They led 100,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals in a dignified manner, intending to annihilate this wave of the biggest resistance force in one go. If these celestial emperors knew that the 6 great sages almost ran away separately, but were suppressed because of Lu Ban's performance, these celestial emperors would probably explode in anger. In less than 5 minutes, the celestial soldiers and celestial generals of the Heavenly Court arrived above Xianyang Airport on the auspicious cloud. On the ground, more than 100,000 Yuan Kus also set up a formation. One was the sky, and the other was the ground. The 2 armies confronted each other on the ground and in the air. It was somewhat like a super decisive battle that would end the whole story. At first glance, the 2 armies seemed to be evenly matched. However, upon closer comparison, one would realize that the 2 armies were as far apart as the distance between heaven and earth, just like the distance between the 2 sides. The army of the Heavenly Court and the allied army of the Yuan bandits consisted of about 100,000 people each, but the soldiers of the Heavenly Court were all wearing shiny silver battle armors. These were not ordinary battle armors, but battle armors made with the dimensional alloy technology of human beings. Every battle armor could withstand the strongest strike of the Soul Realm Yuan bandits. As for the Coalition Army's armor, the Coalition Army did not have armor at all. They were all in their original forms when they came to this world. Only a few Yuan Kus wore armor brought from another world, while most of the Coalition Army's bodies were exposed. In terms of equipment, the Yuan Ku Coalition Army was completely outclassed. What was even worse was their aura. The celestial soldiers and celestial generals were all meticulously trained soldiers, and all of them were expressionless and as cold as the icebergs of the South Pole. They exuded a cold, murderous aura, and when these auras fused together, they were like 400-meter-long broadswords, causing the scattered Yuan Ku Coalition Army to tremble in fear. As for the battle formations of the 2 armies, well, there was nothing much to say. One side was an elite army, and their battle formations were perfect without any flaws. The other side was a mess, and one could tell at a glance that it was a hastily put-together battle formation. It looked like a line of elementary school students lining up to do radio calisthenics. Then there was the level of the 2 armies. The celestial soldiers and celestial generals of the Heavenly Court were standardized armies. Every celestial soldier and celestial general had at least the strength of a soul level, which was equivalent to a human treasure sword level sword wielder. As for the middle and low-level officers such as the captains, they had the strength of a flood dragon level or a dragon level, which was equivalent to a human famed sword level sword wielder. The high-level officers who led the troops were at least at the level of a nether-level Yuan Ku. A rough estimate showed that in the Heavenly Court's army, there were more than 2,000 people who were equivalent to a famed sword level, and about 300 people who were equivalent to a spirit sword level. In addition, there were also Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals who were responsible for holding the line between the various troops. Each of them was equivalent to a human immortal sword level sword wielder, and there were more than 20 of them. Looking at the Yuan Ku Coalition Army, in terms of the low-level combat power, the performance was uneven. Although the ghost level and soul level Yuan Ku were the main force, there were also some mouse level and tiger level Yuan Ku. Then there was the middle level combat power. In this, the Yuan Ku coalition army had a slight advantage. There were more than 3,000 flood dragon level and dragon level Yuan Ku, which was more than the number of people in the heavenly court. However, in terms of the high-level and top-level combat power, the Yuan Ku coalition army was completely defeated. There were less than 100 nether-level and meteor-level Yuan Ku, which was far less than the 300 in the heavenly court. And there were only 2 universe-level Yuan Ku, Artoria and Lu Ban. Even if Liuanian Ling was included, there were only 3, which was a pitifully small number. The top combat power of the Yuan Ku coalition army was so pitiful because of the continuous killing by the heavenly court in the past 800 years. Whenever these 2 levels of Yuan Ku came to this world, they were often discovered by the heavenly court before they could familiarize themselves with this world. Then, the heavenly court mobilized an army to kill them on the spot. Many Yuan Ku returned to their own worlds after coming to this world for less than 3 days. When all the details of the 2 armies were exposed to the audience, none of them had any doubt that when the 2 armies collided head-on, the celestial soldiers and generals of the heaven would definitely wipe out these Yuan bandits as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. However, the 2 armies didn't start fighting immediately. It was hard to say what would happen in real life, but according to the routine in games and novels, at this time, the leaders of both sides would need to have a few verbal exchanges to show that they were on the side of justice, and then denounce the other side as traitors and so on. Even the heavenly soldiers and generals of the heavenly court and the Yuan Ku army were no exception to this. Soon, a gargantuan giant emerged from the ranks of the heavenly soldiers and generals. "Hey! I am the vanguard of the divine firmament pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li, the mighty spirit heavenly general. Today, the Jade Emperor has ordered me to subdue you. Quickly remove your disguise and submit to the heavens, lest all the beasts in this mountain be killed. If you say no, I'll turn you into dust." The mighty spirit god's voice was very loud, as if it could spread throughout the entire Shaanxi province. However, everyone was confused when they heard this. What the hell did he mean? Remove his disguise? All the beasts in the mountain? What the hell was this? You idiot, what the hell are you talking about? Pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li, who was standing behind the mighty spirit god, cursed with a livid expression. "This. Heavenly King, please forgive me. I said the lines I used to attack the demon monkeys. Hee hee. I only have these few lines in my life, it's very easy to say it wrong." The mighty spirit god rubbed his head in shame and tried to salvage the situation. "Hey. I am the vanguard of the divine firmament pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li, the mighty spirit heavenly general. Today, the heavenly emperor has ordered me to have a chat with my old friends. I wonder if you dare to meet him? Since the Jade Emperor wishes to meet us, there's no reason for us not to meet him." 6 bright voices came from the Yuan Ku coalition army at the same time. These 6 great sages walked out from the crowd and faced the heavenly court soldiers and generals alone. On the other hand, the cloud chairs of the 5 heavenly emperors also floated out. The strongest forces of both sides, as well as old friends, officially met at this moment. Chapter 1326. Everyone. I haven't seen you for a long time. I didn't expect to see you again. The Jade Emperor looked at the 6 great sages in front of him and said with a smile. There was no tension before the start of the war. In fact, not only the Jade Emperor, but the other 4 celestial emperors also looked calm. Although they were one less than the other side, the Jade Emperor's strength was indisputable. In addition, the Jade Emperor had just been resurrected. His strength was certainly not as good as before. There was no possibility of the heavenly court losing this battle. At the same time, the heavenly court had set up the dragnet formation in advance, sealing most of Shaanxi province. Unless the formation was broken, the 6 great sages would not be able to escape from the dragnet formation. In the minds of the 5 celestial emperors of the heavenly court, the victory had been decided the moment they appeared. What they had to do now was just a game of cat and mouse. I would like to go to the heavenly court with you to talk about the interesting things in the past. I wonder if you would do me the honor and accompany me? The Jade Emperor asked with a smile. Are you kidding me? If we go to your heavenly court, will the 6 of us still be alive? Odin sneered. They had experienced the dangers of the heavenly court in the past. If it were not for the double agent Yi Qing leading the way, they would have been trapped in the many formations of the heavenly court. If they followed the Jade Emperor into the heavenly court now, they might not even have the chance to escape by self-detonation. So even if they killed the 6 great sages now, they would not follow the Jade Emperor to the heavenly court. That's a pity. The Jade Emperor sighed. Originally, I was thinking that my investiture of the gods still lacked a few positions for the horse protector and wanted you all to fill them up. But now, it seems that you all won't have this chance. Haotian, I didn't expect that after 800 years, your mouth is still so annoying. Heavens equal Gendi said coldly. The position of the horse protector was somewhat related to Heavens equal Gendi. Hearing the Jade Emperor mention this position again, Heavens equal Gendi could not help but clench his fists. Heavens equal. Are you recalling the days when you were my subordinate and raised horses for me? Ha 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 ha. Emperor Qing Shaohao started to laugh wildly. Among the 4 great emperors, Shaohao was the only relative of the Jade Emperor. Therefore, he was the most arrogant and domineering among the 4 great emperors. Except for the Jade Emperor, no one else was worthy of his respect. Even the other 3 great emperors were the same, let alone Heavens equal Gendi. Back then, when Heavens equal Gendi was just a spirit sword level sword wielder, he was once seduced by Fairy Xixia of the heavenly court. He fell in love with her and decided to join the heavenly court. The heavenly court expressed that they wanted to confer a high position on Heavens equal Gendi. Heavens equal Gendi was quite looking forward to it. However, in the end, Heavens equal Gendi became the horse protector of the heavenly court and was severely humiliated by Emperor Qing Shaohao, who was in charge of the horse protector. In the end, he even raped Fairy Xixia in front of Heavens equal Gendi. However, Fairy Xixia's heart was already tied to Heavens equal Gendi. Therefore, she quickly committed suicide by exploding her real spirit. Heavens equal Gendi also stole the Jade Emperor's heavenly horse and escaped from the heavenly court. That was how the future Heavens equal Gendi came into being. From then on, Heavens equal Gendi completely gave up on the idea of reconciling with the heavenly court. He wholeheartedly thought about how to destroy the heavenly court and fight to the death with the heavenly court. When he did not see Emperor Qing Shaohao, Heavens equal Gendi could still maintain his rationality. He knew when to advance and when to retreat. He would not think about taking revenge on the heavenly court. However, when Emperor Qing Shaohao took the initiative to appear in front of Heavens equal Gendi and mentioned this matter, Heavens equal Gendi immediately fell into a state of rage. He picked up the Emperor's sword in his hand and rushed towards Emperor Qing Shaohao, who was in the air. If Wu Zetian and Ping Tian Gendi had not reacted quickly and forcefully suppressed Heavens equal Gendi, the final battle would have already begun. Heavens equal, don't forget about the plan to cover the sky. Ping Tian whispered in Heavens equal Gendi's ear. Only then did Heavens equal Gendi suppress his anger and return to his army. What a pity. This brat did not fall for it. Emperor Qing Shaohao shook his head. If Heavens equal Gendi had really attacked just now, he could have immediately joined forces with the other celestial emperors to severely injure Heavens equal Gendi. That way, the following battle would be much simpler and easier. All right, Shaohao, you can leave first. Jade Emperor said to Emperor Qing. Hearing this, Emperor Qing retreated obediently. Jade Emperor continued, I will not speak to you anymore. I have already set up the inescapable snare formation around this area. You will definitely not be able to escape from here. You will definitely die. If you are willing to forsake the darkness and enter your celestial souls into the god's role, I can give you the title of Heavenly King. You will have the same status as pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li. Each of you will be able to lead 10,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals. How about that? This is my sincerity. If you miss out on my sincerity this time, you will definitely not have another chance. What? You have already set up the inescapable snare formation? Wasn't this a formation that would take a day to set up? Did you already know about us? Yamata no Orokai said in horror. Haha. To tell you the truth, I had already set it up 2 days ago. I was just waiting for you fools to take the bait. Unfortunately, you are a little smarter than you were 800 years ago. You forced me to come out and meet you, Jade Emperor said with a cold smile. The 6 great sages were speechless. At the same time, they looked behind them with grateful eyes. There was Lu Ban and Guhan standing beside him. If these two had not stopped them in time, they would have been captured by the heavenly court. Then, they would really be dead meat. What a joke! What a joke! After a long silence, Ping Tianjendi said with a sneer, "Who is that pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li? He is not even a celestial sword tier. At most, he is a spiritual sword tier. If we are on the same level as him, wouldn't we be the biggest joke in the world? You are all destined to die. With the position of heavenly king, you should kneel down and thank the heavens. How dare you speak so shamelessly?" At the side, pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li cursed loudly, his face red. Ping Tianjendi's every word was a slap to his face. "Oh, I understand what you mean." The Jade Emperor waved his hand at pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li, indicating for him to shut up. Then he turned to Ping Tianjendi and said, "What position do you want?" "About that." Ping Tianjendi rubbed his chin. After thinking for a while, he suddenly asked, "I am very curious about one thing. What did you give Zetian back then, that he was willing to betray us? Why are you mentioning that person?" Hearing Ping Tianjendi mention Zetianjendi's name, the Jade Emperor's face clearly showed a displeased expression. However, this displeasure quickly dissipated. After all, he was a dead person. The Jade Emperor paused for a while before replying, "All right, there is no harm in telling you. I made up an official position for him out of thin air, calling him Great Sage Zetian. He will enjoy the same status as us 5 heavenly kings, but he will not have any actual position. It will be an extremely carefree position." "I see. Jade Emperor, can you let us discuss this?" The 6 great sages looked at each other, then asked. "Go ahead." Because victory was already in his grasp, the Jade Emperor was relatively calm and tolerant. The 6 great sages immediately returned to the team and gathered with Lu Ban to discuss for a while. Then Wu Zetian took the initiative to stand up and say, "We've already comprehended the strength of the inescapable net formation 800 years ago. We don't expect to be able to escape from it. However, if the 6 of us gather all our strength and fight to the death, it is not impossible to replace a few of you. For example, this most annoying Green the Arch." Wu Zetian's words scared Green the Arch Xiaohao so much that he could not help but take a step back. Although Xiaohao was very proud and did not take these 6 great sages seriously, he knew that if these 6 great sages wanted to replace a few of them with the belief that they would definitely die, even the Jade Emperor would not be able to save her. Thinking of this, Green the Arch began to feel afraid. "So you want to discuss terms with me? What terms do you have?" Jade Emperor asked with a frown. "It's simple. We don't want much. You give us 6 celestial the Arch positions and let us be on equal footing with you. We are willing to join the heavenly court and even send our true spirits into the investiture of the gods list. This way, we will be a family. What do you think, Jade Emperor?" Wu Zetian asked with a smile. "That's impossible." Jade Emperor refused very decisively. The celestial the Arch position has long been fixed. It was written on the investiture of the gods list by ancestor Hong Jun and the 3 pure ones. How can I create 6 celestial the Arch positions for you? I can let you be like Zetian Jendi back then. I can give you the title of Great Sage, Heaven's Equal, Great Sage who pacifies heaven, and the other great sages the same status as my celestial the Arch. This is already the biggest concession I can make. Don't try to lie to us. Ancestor Hong Jun and the 3 pure ones haven't come to this world. The investiture of the gods list is completely in your hands. You can add as many positions as you want. You don't need the permission of those 4 big shot. Wu Zetian exposed the Jade Emperor's lie. "Let's put our words here. Either you give us the position of Celestial Emperor, or we'll fight to the death. It won't be a problem to replace 2 of you." This. Jade Emperor hesitated. Clearly, it was as Wu Zetian said. It was not impossible to increase the positions of the 6 celestial theatres. Actually, it was not a big deal to give these 6 great sages celestial the arch positions. They were all positions in name. Under normal circumstances, if they were given, the Jade Emperor would not feel the pinch. However, to increase the position, he needed to rewrite the investiture of the gods list. Originally, the investiture of the gods list was decided by the 4 sages. Every official position on it was written by the sages themselves. Once he changed it, it was equivalent to offending the 4 sages. If the 4 sages did not come to this world, it would be fine. However, once they came to this world, he was afraid that he would have to bear the consequences. However, after hearing the declaration of the 6 great sages, Jade Emperor did not want his subordinates to be injured. Just as he was in a dilemma, an old voice broke the deadlock. Your Majesty, I have an idea. I don't know if Your Majesty is willing to give it a try. Lu Ban took the initiative to stand up and said. So it's you, Lu Ban. Fine, what good idea do you have? Tell me. Jade Emperor was no stranger to Lu Ban. After all, he was a guy who had fought with him for 800 years after the death of the great sages. Jade Emperor had long known Lu Ban as an opponent. Why do we old guys have to do it? Why don't we let the little guys practice? Lu Ban paused and then said, we will each send 3 juniors below the celestial the arch level to compete. 2 out of 3 wins. If you win, we 6 great sages are willing to accept the position of great sage. At the same time, our true spirits will be on the investiture of the gods list. We will also completely surrender to the heavenly court and never rebel again. But if we win, the heavenly court will let the 6 great sages ascend to the throne. At the same time, these poor people will release the inescapable snare formation and give us back our freedom. How about that? Permission granted. The Jade Emperor's reply was very straightforward. Chapter 1327. Cao Yu. Are you sure your ability can cover the entire battlefield? In the Yuan Ku Alliance army, Lu Ban cautiously asked a middle-aged man with an unshaven beard and a very serious expression. Replying to Lord Lu Ban, my ability isn't to cover a large area, but to cover 2 different armies from both sides. Cao Yu said indifferently, just now, I passed by the troops of several great sages. I have already marked both armies. Unless the other side completely admits defeat, my ability will still be effective even if the 2 armies are at the ends of the earth. Master Lu Ban, you should be worried about whether our 3 generals can win all 3 battles. Cao Yu's eyes were filled with worry. If they can't win all 3 battles, not only will my ability be of no help, but it will also cause great harm to our side. Don't worry. The rest depends on Guhan and the others. Lu Ban nodded and looked at the 3 people at the front of the army. According to the agreement between the 6 great sages and the 5 heavenly emperors of the celestial court, other than the emperor sword-level elites, each side could send out 3 elites to fight one-on-one battles. The results of the battles would determine the status of the 6 great sages in the celestial court after they surrendered. The 6 of you, I'll count to 3. Then, we'll throw the names of our generals into the air at the same time to show fairness. How about that? The Jade Emperor said with a smile. No problem. Odin nodded. The Jade Emperor counted to 3. Then, the 2 of them threw their empty hands into the air at the same time. On the Jade Emperor's side, countless immortal cranes appeared out of thin air and formed the 2 big words Yang Jian in the air. On Odin's side, the 2 words Artoria were formed by endless flashing golden lightning. With that, the opponents for the first battle were decided. Yang Jian of the Celestial Court versus Artoria of the Alliance Army. They actually sent out Artoria first. Seeing that the Alliance Army had sent out Artoria, the Immortal Hermit of the South Pole said with a frown. Clearly, the Immortal Hermit of the South Pole had planned for Artoria not to be the first contestant of the Alliance Army. According to the Immortal Hermit of the South Pole's plan, the Alliance Army would most likely send out a relatively weak contestant as a sacrifice in exchange for a chance of winning the next 2 battles. Therefore, the Celestial Court had placed Yang Jian, who was the weakest, first and the two stronger contestants in the last two positions. This was so that they could snipe Artoria. The Celestial Court knew their old rival Artoria all too well. Over the course of 500 years, Artoria had led her team into conflicts with the Celestial Court tens of thousands of times, and Artoria had the upper hand in almost every conflict. For example, young Jen had fought with Artoria more than 200 times in the last 500 years, and Artoria had the upper hand in more than 90% of the battles. If not for the fact that the Celestial Court's reinforcements had arrived quickly, Artoria would have killed young Jen several times over. In fact, no one in the entire Celestial Court dared to guarantee that they could defeat Artoria. And the last general who was originally scheduled to fight only had a 75% chance of winning against Artoria, which wasn't a surefire chance. Looks like we're going to lose the first battle. Seeing young Jen standing opposite Artoria with a bitter smile on his face, the White Emperor Go Chen spoke in a manner that dealt a blow to their morale. If we lose, then we lose. They only have Artoria. Even the most arrogant Emperor Qing Shaohao did not have any confidence in young Jen and said the same disheartening words. It's fine. They only have Artoria, Jade Emperor said calmly. Actually, this is good. Artoria has defeated the weakest young Jen, so the remaining two will definitely win. We will still be the ones to win in the end. Your Majesty Jade Emperor is right. The four Celestial Emperors said in unison. The battle began when even the Celestial Court was extremely pessimistic about the outcome. Just as the Celestial Court had guessed, young Jen was no match for Artoria at all. Less than 20 minutes into the battle, young Jen was completely suppressed by Artoria. In the past, young Jen's mighty Ling's three-point, double-edged sword was no match for Artoria's Sword of the Lake. Every attack was predicted by Artoria. This made young Jen feel extremely sullen. Why does it feel like this? Artoria's swordsmanship has improved by quite a bit. Scarlet Emperor South Pole Immortal Wang said in disbelief when he saw young Jen's sullen state. This woman, I've never seen her so terrifying before. White Emperor Go Chen also couldn't help but exclaim. Very powerful. In terms of swordsmanship alone, I'm afraid none of the four of us are her match. Even Purple Emperor Bo Ikao, who usually spoke very little, spoke up. Looks like an expert has taught this Artoria before. Jade Emperor, who was sitting in the middle, said thoughtfully. Compared to before, her swordsmanship has already transcended her fixed thinking. If a person wants to rely on their own strength to break through their fixed thinking, it's something that requires tens of thousands of years of training. It's impossible to do it in a short period of time. Her swordsmanship has probably been taught by an expert swordsman. Could it be that the two humans Jendi taught her? This heaven-shrouding Jendi is indeed powerful. With just a few words, he made my swordsmanship improve to this level. Artoria thought to herself as she enjoyed the thrill of fighting to her heart's content. The truth was just as the Jade Emperor had guessed. Artoria didn't improve with her own abilities, but with the help of an outsider. Originally, Guhan had planned to personally teach Artoria, but after seeing her swordsmanship, Guhan realized that his swordsmanship and Artoria's were in two different worlds. Artoria's swordsmanship was the most orthodox of the Western swordsmanship. It focused on each and every move, using momentum to win. On the other hand, Guhan's swordsmanship was the exact opposite of Artoria's. Guhan's swordsmanship focused on nimbleness and variety. It was a traditional Eastern swordsmanship, with one move followed by 1,000 variations. To make an analogy, Guhan was like an F1 driver who drove a Ferrari, while Artoria was a special vehicle driver who drove a huge mining truck that weighed dozens of tons. Both of their skills were at the peak of their respective fields, but it was impossible for them to complement each other. Guhan's F1 driving skills could not be applied to a huge mining truck that weighed dozens of tons. On the other hand, Yi Qing gave Artoria a long list of suggestions for improvement after just one look at her swordsmanship. Moreover, these suggestions were all on the most important points, so Artoria's swordsmanship improved as if she was reborn, and she even began to touch the edge of the laws. As long as Artoria could master her swordsmanship, she would enter the realm of the laws and become a great sage in one fell swoop. Sword of Victory and Promised Victory. Under the impact of Artoria's final ultimate move, Yang Jian's armor was completely destroyed, and his body was covered with bone-deep wounds. Seeing that the situation was not good, Yang Jian immediately fled back to the Celestial Court's army, and the first battle ended with Artoria's victory. Your Majesty, I had a bad start, and my skills are inferior. I am willing to accept punishment, Your Majesty. He was different from the rebellious Yang Jian in the real world, the one who did not care about his uncle, the Jade Emperor. In this dungeon world, Yang Jian was extremely respectful to the Jade Emperor, and did not dare to show the slightest bit of neglect. The Celestial Court in this dungeon world was too powerful, so powerful that the Celestial Court did not lack a fighter like Yang Jian. The Jade Emperor did not mind using his nephew's life to declare his authority. It's fine. I see that Artoria has improved a lot, and it's only natural that you lose to her. Go and rest. The Jade Emperor nodded, and did not make things difficult for his nephew. Your Majesty, who should we send out next? White Emperor Go Chen immediately asked impatiently. It doesn't matter who we send out. They will definitely lose the next 2 battles. Green Emperor Xiaohao said smugly. Go invite the leader of the 8 immortals of the upper caves, pure young true immortal Patriarch Lu, to come and fight. The Jade Emperor thought for a moment, then gave the order. Soon, a Daoist dressed in a bright red Daoist robe, with an orchid hairpin on his head, and a crimson peachwood sword on his back appeared in front of the Jade Emperor. He clasped his hands towards the Jade Emperor. Your subject Lu Dongbin greets you, Your Majesty. I didn't want to trouble Patriarch Lu with today's matter, but this involves the dignity of the Celestial Court. Please, Patriarch Lu, teach these arrogant monsters a lesson. The Jade Emperor's expression was very kind, not at all like one would treat a subordinate, but like a close friend. This was very rare in the Celestial Court. However, this couldn't be helped, because Lu Dongbin's backing was very powerful. Lu Dongbin was one of the inner disciples of Taishang Laojun, and also the last disciple of Taishang Laojun. With the support of Taishang Laojun, Lu Dongbin's position in the Celestial Court was completely different. However, because Taishang Laojun did not come to this world, Lu Dongbin did not dare to be too presumptuous. He was very respectful to the Jade Emperor, and was very considerate of all kinds of etiquette. The Jade Emperor was very satisfied with this. Since Lu Dongbin showed enough respect to him, he would return the favor. This also gave Lu Dongbin a special position in the Celestial Court. I dare not disobey Your Majesty's order. I will kill that monster now, and raise the prestige of the Celestial Court. As expected, Lu Dongbin gave the Jade Emperor face. When Lu Dongbin leisurely walked out of the Celestial Court's formation, the Yuan Ku Alliance army also sent out their second opponent, Miss Liuyan Ling, who had an extremely ugly expression on her face. Chapter 1328. Liuyan Ling. The Heavenly Court's 5 celestial emperors were stunned when they saw Odin's name. They had never heard of this name before. Liuyan. Scarlet Emperor South Pole Immortal Wang muttered to himself. Why do I have a bad feeling about this? Could this woman be a descendant of the Liuyan family? White Emperor Go Chen voiced out his guess. All 5 celestial emperors fell silent. They recalled the battle 800 years ago when they annihilated the human forces. They recalled Drifting Goblet's Jendi who fought against the 5 of them by himself. They recalled his terrifying swordsmanship, and their even more terrifying ancestor, Liuyan. He was a terrifying person who killed 3 celestial emperors of the Heavenly Court. It can't be. We've already killed all the descendants of the Liuyan family. We've never heard of anyone from the Liuyan family's bloodline appearing in the past 800 years. Could this be a normal human who admired the Liuyan family's reputation and gave herself the surname Liuyan? Scarlet Emperor Go Chen comforted himself after a moment of silence. That's right. That must be it. This Liuyan Ling is definitely a fake. Ancestor Lu, you can easily kill this human. Azure Emperor Xiaohao suddenly roared, as if this could prove that Liuyan Ling was a fake. Liuyan Ling was very displeased. However, it was not because the celestial emperors doubted her, but because her heart was filled with the flames of jealousy. This Guhan just said that he liked her a few days ago. Now, He was completely with Yi Qing and was constantly lovey-dovey with her. It would be strange if Liu Ling wasn't angry. Damn it. I'll never be jealous of an NPC. Liu Ling warned herself, but the jealousy in her heart was still like a raging river. As a result, Ancestor Lu became the perfect target for Liu Ling to vent her anger on. I'm Lu Dongbin, one of the Upper Cave 8 Immortals. May I ask if this lady is a descendant of the Liu Nian family? Before the battle began, Lu Dongbin announced his name in an elegant and proper manner, and then asked curiously. He really wanted to know if there were any descendants of the terrifying Liu Nian family that had survived. Looks like your hands are also stained with the blood of this world's Liu Nian family, aren't they? Liu Ling glared at Lu Dongbin and retorted angrily. I did participate in Drifting Goblet Gendi's attack, but I wasn't stained with Drifting Goblet's Gendi's blood. He died by self-detonating his sword Qi, and no one can touch Drifting Goblet's blood. I am Liu Shong, Gendi, and I also admire you greatly. I dare not be disrespectful. Lu Dongbin's tone was filled with respect. Oh. Then do you know how you died? Liu Ling did not answer Lu Dongbin's question, and instead retorted with a cold snort. Lu Dongbin's expression froze for a moment, and then he said stiffly, whether it's in the original world or in this world, I'm still alive and well. No one has the ability to kill me. Then I'll tell you. 327 years ago, you actually tried to sneak attack our Liu Nian family's 19th ancestor. In the end, our ancestor used the billion sword art to kill you on the peak of Mount Tai and turned you into minced meat. Liu Ling sneered. Lu Dongbin was even more dumbfounded, and his expression became even more furious. This young lady's words are interesting. If I, Lu Dongbin, had died 327 years ago, then who is Lu Dongbin now? Could it be that I, Lu Dongbin, have transmigrated back again? You don't need to care about that. In any case, you died 327 years ago. Liu Ling did not explain at all, and continued to say these strange words. In reality, Liu Ling was not lying. Lu Dongbin had indeed died 327 years ago. However, that was in another world. At that time, the 19th ancestor of the Liu Nian family had just come out to travel, and he was only at the spirit sword level. As a peak universe level, Yuan Ku, Lu Dongbin felt that he had a chance to sneak attack the Liu Nian family's ancestor. If it was a normal ancestor, this sneak attack would have won. Even the descendant of the Liu Nian family would not be able to close the gap between the two. However, the problem was that Lu Dongbin's sneak attack was the 19th ancestor of the Liu Nian family, the fourth and last ancestor of the Liu Nian family, Gendi. This ancestor was a genius, and did not panic when facing Lu Dongbin's sneak attack. The two of them fought from the coast of the East Sea to the peak of Mount Tai. This was already an incredible thing. In the past 1,000 years of history, there were not many people who could fight with the universe-level Yuan Ku for so long as they were at the spirit sword level. As for defeating him, apart from Guhan, Liu Nian Li, and Yi Qing, there was not a fourth person in the world who could do this. In the end, when they reached the peak of Mount Tai, the 19th ancestor of the Liu Nian family finally received support from a guest of the Liu Nian family. With the help of this guest, the 19th ancestor of the Liu Nian family successfully killed the famous universe-level Yuan Ku and the leader of the 8 Immortals, Lu Dongbin, on the peak of Mount Tai, establishing his unparalleled reputation. Of course, Lu Dongbin did not know what had happened in the real world, nor did he know that the real him was already dead. So, he only felt that Liu Ling's words were strange, like she was a madwoman. Enough with the nonsense. Watch my fire dragon sword. Lu Dongbin could not be bothered to talk to Liu Ling anymore. He formed a seal with both hands, and the fire dragon sword on his back flew out and attacked Liu Ling's soaring sky sword. Liu Ling patted her waist with her right hand, and her sword lady soaring sky sword flew into the sky. Just like the fire dragon sword, without a master to control it, it began to attack her opponent in the sky. This was purely the swordsmanship of both sides, the purest contest between two swordsmen. However, it did not take long for Liu Ling to be at a disadvantage. Lu Dongbin was originally a master swordsman in the world. When he was still traveling in the human world, He had defeated all the swordsmen in the world with his fire dragon sword. He could be called a sword saint. After Lu Dongbin ascended to become an immortal, apart from drinking and having fun in the heavenly court, his greatest joy was perfecting his swordsmanship. After a few thousand years, Lu Dongbin's swordsmanship had already reached the point of perfection. He could be called the #1 swordsman in the heavenly court. Before Artoria's transformation, Lu Dongbin's swordsmanship was on par with Artoria's. However, Lu Dongbin had just witnessed the entire battle between Artoria and Yang Zhen. It made Lu Dongbin somewhat sorrowfully realize that as Artoria completed a crucial transformation, he was no longer her opponent. Therefore, Lu Dongbin was very eager to defeat this opponent in front of him and vent his frustrations. Although Liu Ling's swordsmanship talent was very high, it was not as terrifying as Lu Dongbin's. In addition, Lu Dongbin had immersed himself in swordsmanship for thousands of years. Liu Ling's accumulation could not be compared to Lu Dongbin's. If not for Liu Ling's unparalleled swordsmanship secret manuals from the Liu clan and the Liu clan's 20 years of meticulous nurturing, Liu Ling would have long been defeated by Lu Dongbin. Since when did the humans have an expert of this level? Lu Dongbin was also shocked by Liu Ling's swordsmanship. He was also very clear that the reason he could suppress Liu Ling's swordsmanship was because he had accumulated enough accumulation. If the 20-year-old Lu Dongbin faced Liu Ling's swordsmanship, he would have been killed in less than 10 seconds. This was a prodigy. In the future, she might even be a heaven-dominating Gendi. At this thought, Lu Dongbin no longer held back. He used all his swordsmanship. Liu Ling was at a complete disadvantage in an instant. The soaring sky sword was forced back by the fire dragon sword, and Lu Dongbin's figure kept closing in on Liu Ling. At the same time, sparks of lightning appeared in Lu Dongbin's hands. This was Lu Dongbin's ultimate technique, the 9-yang true thunder. Boom! A bolt of 9 solar thunder exploded beside fleeting Time Ling. The bolt of 9 solar thunder had appeared out of nowhere, and it had come without any warning. Normally, lightning would strike down from the sky. No matter how fast it was, one would be able to detect it and dodge it. However, this bolt of 9-yang true thunder seemed to strike down from the sky. The moment it appeared out of nowhere, Liu Ling reacted and began to retreat to the left. However, she was still struck in the thigh by this bolt of 9-yang true thunder. Ah! Liu Ling let out a cry of pain. Her entire body swayed, and the soaring sky sword that was dancing in the air seemed to have lost its commander. It stopped moving and was caught by the fire dragon sword. The soaring sky sword fell to the ground. Good. As expected of old Lord Taishang's disciple. A single bolt of 9-yang true thunder is enough to make your opponent lose her soul. A wave of cheers came from the heavenly court's camp. Everyone was cheering for Lu Dongbin's 9-yang true thunder. They felt that victory was in sight. Damn it! Is this Liu Ling really the descendant of the Liu clan? Why is she so weak? She can't even take a single bolt of 9-yang true thunder. I can take 100 hits in a row without any problem. On the other side, the 6 great sages of the allied army had stiff expressions. They didn't expect that the mighty Liu Ling would be so weak. She was beaten to this state by just a single bolt of 9-yang true thunder. If this goes on, they will lose without a doubt. What's going on? It shouldn't be. It's just a single bolt of 9-yang true thunder. She is a great firmament golden immortal. How can she be so weak? Seeing that his 9-yang true thunder had such a miraculous effect, even Lu Dongbin himself couldn't believe it. He couldn't understand what had happened. Damn it! Little sister Ling is in danger. On the other side, Yi Qing, who was hiding beside Guhan and disguised as an ordinary human, whispered to Guhan, "This 9-yang true thunder specializes in attacking the human soul. You all came to this dungeon in the form of a soul. This 9-yang true thunder is too much of a restraint on you. Moreover, it will really harm your soul. Your soul might really be destroyed in this dungeon." Chapter 1329. Will Liu Ling be alright? Guhan couldn't help but worry when he heard Yi Qing's words. At the same time, he held the extinguish immortal sword in his hand. The moment the situation changed, Guhan would immediately take action. So the people from the Liunian family are so weak. Even a spirit sword wielder wouldn't be so badly injured after taking a 9-yang true lightning. Lu Dongbin was both surprised and disdainful when he saw half of Liunian Ling's body turn black. He was speaking the truth. With this kind of injury, this descendant of the Liunian family would die on the spot in at most 5 9-yang true lightning strikes. She was so weak that it was pitiful. Our Liunian family is not something you can insult. The heavily injured Liunian Ling raised her head. Her eyes were filled with anger. At the same time, countless rays of sword light shot out from the soaring sky sword in her hand. In less than a second, the area around Liunian Ling was filled with densely packed rays of sword light. There were so many of them that even the light of the sun in the sky was overshadowed. It was as if a new sun had appeared beside Liunian Ling. Oh my God! Just how many rays of sword light are there? Seeing so many rays of sword light, the spectators on both sides tried to estimate how many there were. In the end, they only took a rough glance. The sky was filled with so many rays that their heads were about to explode. How could they calculate the exact number of rays of sword light? 10. 100,000. 1 million. 6 million. However, it wasn't that no one could calculate the number of rays of sword light. The Scarlet Emperor South Pole Immortal Wang took a few rough glances and said with certainty, there are about 6 million rays of sword light. 6 million. The Jade Emperor's expression turned ugly. There's no mistake now. This woman is indeed the descendant of the Liunian family. Only the 100 million sword technique of the Liunian family can produce 6 million rays of sword light at the immortal sword rank. The Jade Emperor could not help but recall the most thrilling battle that had taken place over 800 years ago. Including the Jade Emperor himself, 5 heavenly emperors of the heavenly court had besieged Sword Emperor Liutuor. In the end, Sword Emperor Liutuor had fought against 5 alone. In the beginning of the battle, he had even gained the upper hand and almost killed the Jade Emperor several times. If it wasn't for the Heavenly Court's meticulous strategy to deplete the sword essence in Drifting Goblet Gendi's body, the outcome of the battle would have been uncertain. If Drifting Goblet's Gendi's sword essence had doubled, the entire battle would have changed. The Jade Emperor could still remember Drifting Goblet's terrifying sword light. When Drifting Goblet was at its peak, Gendi could release 40 million rays of sword light. The 40 million rays of sword light covered the entire Yangjing city. The Jade Emperor would occasionally think of that terrifying scene in his dreams. It became one of the few sources of nightmares for the Jade Emperor. So when the Jade Emperor saw Liunian Ling's 6 million rays of sword light, he knew that Liunian Ling's surname was not fake. She was the true descendant of the Liunian clan. Lu Dongbin, who was supposed to win, was in big trouble this time. Lu Dongbin was at a complete disadvantage the moment Liunian Ling revealed her billion sword art. Or rather, he was forced to flee. The rays of sword light chased after Lu Dongbin like mad dogs, not giving him a chance to stop. Lu Dongbin had tried to resist these sword lights, and the sword lights themselves weren't very strong. Lu Dongbin could destroy over 100 of them with a swing of his sword, but the problem was that there were simply too many of them, and they kept attacking Lu Dongbin from all directions. Lu Dongbin destroyed over 100 sword lights on one side, but over 1,000 sword lights on the other side stabbed into Lu Dongbin's body. Lu Dongbin cultivated the pure yang body tempering technique, a technique that focused on the physical body. Logically speaking, it should not be a problem for the rays of sword light to stab into his body. That was what Lu Dongbin thought in the beginning. He felt that his physical body was very strong, so he did not focus the rays of sword light on his body. When the rays of sword light pierced through his body and attacked his immortal force, Lu Dongbin realized to his horror that the rays of sword light could ignore his physical body's defenses to a certain extent. The 1,000 rays of sword light had caused him to lose about 0.5% of his immortal force. 0.5% did not sound like much, but it was only the effect of 1,000 rays of sword light. As long as 200,000 of the 6 million rays of sword light pierced into Lu Dongbin's body, Lu Dongbin's immortal force would be depleted, and he would become immortal. Lu Dongbin could neither block it nor defend against it. The only thing he could do now was to escape. The sword lights that followed behind him were like stray dogs, and Lu Dongbin had become an unlucky beggar who was being chased and bitten by the stray dogs. Lu Dongbin also tried to use the 9-yang true thunder, which he had just seen miraculous effects, to deal with Liuyan Ling. If he could make Liuyan Ling eat a few more rays of 9-yang true thunder, then he would be able to directly kill his opponent. However, Liuyan Ling had learned her lesson this time. She no longer stood still like before, but constantly moved at high speed in the air. This made Lu Dongbin completely at a loss. The 9-yang true thunder was not an instantaneous skill, it required about 2 seconds to cast. 2 seconds was enough for Liuyan Ling to move several kilometers. Unless Lu Dongbin could predict Liuyan Ling's position 2 seconds later, the 9-yang true thunder would not be able to hit her at all. This is bad. If this continues, Ancestor Lu will definitely lose. The Jade Emperor frowned deeply. Then, he said something to the Immortal Hermit of the South Pole. The Immortal Hermit of the South Pole nodded and disappeared from his throne. He only returned after 5 or 6 seconds. Did you manage to borrow it? The Jade Emperor asked anxiously. Yes, I did. The Immortal Hermit of the South Pole opened his right hand. 9 small dragons were constantly circling on his palm, forming a large bell-like object. But Junior Brother said that the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier won't last long against the 6 million rays of sword light. If Ancestor Lu doesn't have a way to break the enemy, then he will still lose. No matter. After all, Ancestor Lu is the last disciple of old Lord Taishang. He must have a trump card. The Jade Emperor nodded. The Immortal Hermit of the South Pole sent the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier into the void. In the next second, the void around Lu Dongbin was broken, and the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier automatically emerged from the void. Shameless. Jade Emperor, you're shameless. Seeing the Immortal Hermit of the South Pole give a magic treasure to Lu Dongbin, the 6 great sages who were watching the battle immediately jumped out and made a ruckus. Nonsense. I'm not that kind of person. The Jade Emperor said in an inviolable manner. The 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier is Ancestor Lu's magic treasure, but he lent it to you a few days ago. Now, he's just returning it to him. How is this shameless? This shameless guy. The 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier is clearly Lord Tai's magic treasure. When did it become Ancestor Lu's? Wu Zetian, who was familiar with the heavenly court, cursed. Me. Lord Tai gave the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier to Ancestor Lu 100 years ago, so it is Ancestor Lu's magic treasure now. The Jade Emperor said calmly. He looked at the 4 great emperors around him and gave him a thumbs up. As expected of the central Jade Emperor. Not only was his magic power powerful, his skin was also so thick. Bah! Who doesn't know that the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier is Lord Tai's natal magic treasure? There's no reason for a natal magic treasure to be given away. This is utter nonsense. The 6 great sages were even more dissatisfied. The 6 of you, please be careful with your words and actions. Otherwise, I can take back my promise at any time and fight with you all. When the Jade Emperor heard the words of the 6 great sages, he glared at them and directly threatened to cancel the competition. This could be said to be the Achilles heel of the 6 great sages. They proposed the competition because they felt that they were no match for the Heavenly Court and did not want to start a war with the Heavenly Court. After being threatened by the Jade Emperor, as expected, they fell silent. In the end, it was Odin who asked helplessly, "May I ask, Jade Emperor, what other magic treasures did Ancestor Lu leave with you? Please tell us now, lest there be another dispute later." None. The Jade Emperor shook his head. He had already acted shamelessly once. If he continued, even the Jade Emperor's thick skin wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Therefore, both sides tacitly agreed that the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier was Lu Dongbin's magic treasure. "Open for me." On the other side, the moment Lu Dongbin received the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier, he madly urged his magic power into it. The 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier expanded to the size of a house in an instant, sheltering Lu Dongbin's entire body within it. No matter how the sword lights attacked, the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier did not budge. Lu Dongbin could finally stop and rest for a while. The 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier was the natal magic treasure of Lord Tai. If others wanted to use it, they had to destroy the mark left by the original owner in the magic treasure. However, Lord Tai had lent it to Lu Dongbin on his own initiative, so that the mark he left in the magic treasure could fully cooperate with Lu Dongbin. Only then could Lu Dongbin use the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier. Liuyan Ling manipulated her sword lights to constantly attack the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier. But after 100,000 sword lights, the 9 dragons on the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier let out shrill screams, but the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier itself remained as stable as Mount Tai, showing no signs of being broken. This broken barrier, it really is as annoying as the books say. Fleeting Ling mumbled in a hushed tone. He knew very well about the 9 dragons' divine fire shroud. In the real world, Heavenly Premier Extreme Celestial had been killed by a patriarch of the Fleeting family. Naturally, the patriarch would have a deep understanding of Heavenly Premier Extreme Celestial's magic treasure. According to this ancestor's diary, the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier could be said to be one of the nemeses of the Billion Swords technique. The sword lights of the Billion Swords technique could not penetrate the defense of the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier, and the only way to break through it was to use sword lights. Back then, the ancestor had used nearly 2 million sword lights to break through the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier. Like Liuyan Ling, this ancestor was also an immortal sword wielder. Chapter 1330. About 2 million more. Lu Dongbin made the same judgment from within the 9 dragons' heavenly fire shroud. Due to the limited surface area of the 9 dragons' heavenly fire shroud, a maximum of 100,000 sword energies could strike the 9 dragons' heavenly fire shroud in 1 second. This meant that Lu Dongbin had 20 seconds left. After 20 seconds, the entire 9 dragons' heavenly fire shroud would shatter. 20 seconds is enough. Lu Dongbin gritted his teeth and took out a small golden ring from his spatial ring. It's the diamond chakram. I didn't expect old Lord Taishang to pass it on to his disciple. I knew Lu Dongbin wouldn't be so simple. We'll definitely win this time. The Jade Emperor sitting high above the clouds exclaimed happily when he saw Lu Dongbin take out the artifact. Seeing the diamond chakram was like seeing victory. That's right. Back then, even that brute monkey could only withstand 1 attack from the diamond chakram. No matter how strong Liuyan Ling is, she can't be stronger than that monkey. We'll definitely win this time. The other 4 celestial emperors echoed, as if victory was already in their grasp. Enlarge, enlarge, enlarge. On the other side, Lu Dongbin's face was flushed red from holding in the 9 dragons' heavenly fire shroud. He was frantically channeling his magic power into the diamond chakram. The small diamond chakram was not to be underestimated. It was only the size of a bracelet, but it had already absorbed more than 50% of Lu Dongbin's immortal power in 3 seconds, and it was still not enough. Lu Dongbin was a peak Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, second only to the 5 celestial emperors. Yet, 50% of his magic power was still not enough for the diamond chakram. This showed how terrifying the diamond chakram was. It wasn't until the diamond chakram had absorbed 90% of Lu Dongbin's magic power that it began to expand rapidly. Finally, it grew to the size of a hula hoop and stopped growing. Phew. Lu Dongbin let out a long sigh of relief. He used the last bit of his magic power to aim the diamond chakram at Liuyan Ling and threw it. He collapsed to the ground, panting heavily as if he had been hollowed out after firing 10 shots in a row. We won. The diamond chakram had just been thrown, but the Scarlet Emperor South Pole Immortal Wang exclaimed confidently, "Haha. This descendant of the Liuyan aristocrat clan is truly unlucky. After being smashed by the diamond chakram, she's definitely done for." Qing Emperor Xiaohao laughed maniacally. The other 3 emperors, including the Jade Emperor, nodded in agreement. Clearly, all 5 celestial emperors believed that Liuyan Ling would definitely lose. Why? Because this diamond chakram was simply too powerful. Do not underestimate this small bracelet-like diamond chakram. This was the personal magic treasure of Taishang Larojun. Legend has it that Taishang Larojun forged this magic treasure from Pangu's fingernails. It was an innate magic treasure with boundless power. Any opponent who had yet to become a demi-saint, which was an emperor sword, would die on the spot if they were hit by the diamond chakram. In the world, only experts like Goku and Yang Jian, who had trained their bodies to the holy ground level, could withstand the attack of the diamond chakram with their own bodies. However, they could only withstand it for a while. Even someone as strong as Goku fainted immediately after being hit by the diamond chakram. It took him 7 days and 7 nights before he woke up. From this, one could see how powerful this diamond chakram was. What was even more terrifying was that the diamond chakram was a magic treasure that could not be dodged. It was like a lock-on attack in games. As long as the user used their will to lock onto the opponent, the diamond chakram would definitely hit the opponent's head. There was no chance of a miss. Even the primordial Lord of Heaven and the Grandmaster of Heaven, who were at the same level as Taishang Laojun, had suffered a little from this diamond chakram. They had been hit by Taishang Laojun. Of course, the diamond chakram did very little damage to these two beings, but it greatly damaged their pride. Even the primordial Lord of Heaven and the Grandmaster of Heaven could not dodge it. Naturally, Liuyan Ling, who was an immortal tier sword wielder, could not dodge it either. Its power was so strong that no one below the Emperor's sword could block it, and the attack had a 100% hit rate. There was no chance of a miss. Therefore, in the eyes of these 5 celestial emperors, Liuyan Ling was already a dead person. She had no chance of escaping from the diamond chakram. The diamond chakram did not look fast in the air. Even a dragon-level Yuan Ku could see the diamond chakram flying in the air with his naked eye. It felt like it was only a few times the speed of sound. But in reality, the diamond chakram had traversed a distance of more than 10 kilometers in just 2 seconds. It appeared in front of Liuyan Ling. Then, just as the Jade Emperor and the other celestial emperors had guessed, any dodging movement that Liuyan Ling made was meaningless in front of the diamond chakram. The diamond chakram landed lightly on Liuyan Ling's head. Then, Liuyan Ling directly fell from the sky and landed heavily on the ground. The diamond chakram is terrifying indeed. Even the descendant of the Liuyan clan can't resist it. Everyone, including the Celestial Court's 5 celestial emperors, gasped when they saw this. They were shocked by the diamond chakram's terrifying attack once again. But it looks like this Liuyan Ling is not dead yet. The Liuyan clan is really powerful. The Scarlet Emperor South Pole Immortal Hermit could not help but exclaim when he saw that the sky was still full of sword light. However, they had stopped moving because they had lost their master. If Liuyan Ling was dead, then the sword light would naturally disappear. But now that the sword light was still there, it meant that Liuyan Ling was not dead. She had only been knocked unconscious by the diamond chakram. Ancestor Lu. Quickly kill her. At that moment, Lu Dongbin suddenly heard the Azure Emperor Xiaohao's order. Why? Lu Dongbin was stunned. She has already lost the ability to fight. We have already won. Why must we kill her? Are you stupid? Have you forgotten the Jade Emperor's orders? Not a single person from the Liuyan clan is left alive. Xiaohao sneered. Lu Dongbin fell silent. Because 3 of the Heavenly Court celestial emperors had died in Kanzu's hands, the hatred between the Heavenly Court and the Liuyan clan was as deep as the ocean. After conquering Yangjing City 800 years ago, the Jade Emperor had personally led the Heavenly Court's army to hunt down the Liuyan clan. He had only gotten his revenge after the remnants of the Liuyan clan were completely annihilated. But no one expected the descendant of the Liuyan clan to appear now. If the Jade Emperor did not take this opportunity to eliminate him, wouldn't he become a huge problem for the Heavenly Court when he grew to Drifting Goblet and Gendi's level? Sigh. Lu Dongbin sighed. He was an immortal, after all. He was somewhat unwilling to take advantage of someone when they were down. But when he remembered that this was the Jade Emperor's order, he withdrew his benevolence and cast hand seals. Over 100 bolts of 9 young true lightning formed near where Liuyan Ling had fallen. They were like divine spears of fire, continuously striking down on Liuyan Ling. When the lightning disappeared, there was nothing left where Liuyan Ling had fallen. All that was left was a charred mark. You shameless villains. Seeing this scene, the 6 great sages came to a sudden realization and began to scold them angrily. What a joke. What a joke. The Jade Emperor laughed in the sky. We had an agreement earlier. Only when the challenger personally admits defeat will it count as defeat. Liuyan Ling didn't admit defeat at all. Why can't Ancestor Lu continue attacking? You. Miss Ling clearly fainted. How could she admit defeat? Heavens equal Jendi said furiously. Is that so? But I clearly saw her blink a few times. She clearly didn't faint. Qing Emperor Xiaohao said with a sinister smile. He said he saw Liuyan Ling blink, but no one else saw it. There were no cameras here, so how could they tell if it was real or not? Even if Qing Emperor Xiaohao was farting, everyone had to admit it. Ancestor Lu, come back. The Jade Emperor didn't want to waste his breath on the 6 sages, so he directly said to Lu Dongbin. Lu Dongbin nodded and stood up from the ground. At the same time, he withdrew the 9-dragon divine fire shroud. Just as he was about to fly back to the Heavenly Court's camp, the millions of sword lights that had been motionless around him suddenly exploded again. Lu Dongbin didn't even have time to react before the countless sword lights pierced into his body one after another. Because Lu Dongbin's magic power had long been exhausted, Lu Dongbin no longer had any ability to resist these sword lights. After just a second, Lu Dongbin spat out a mouthful of blood, his body became extremely stiff, and he fell to the ground like a piece of cement. Then, a dimensional vortex appeared and began to absorb Lu Dongbin's body. One of the 8 immortals of the upper cave had died on the battlefield just like that. How could this be? The Heavenly Court's people immediately fell silent. They had just been cheering for victory, but never would they have imagined such a shocking reversal in the next second. Lu Dongbin, who had used a carnate treasure like the diamond chakram, had actually died at his opponent's hands in the blink of an eye. No matter how they looked at it, his opponent should have been a dead man. I already said that you would definitely die at the hands of the Liuyan clan. When the dimensional vortex disappeared, Liuyan Ling slowly walked out of the void and spat at where Lu Dongbin had fallen. Then, she looked up at the Heavenly Court. You shameless old turtles, I won this time. We won. Long live. Long live. After a moment of daze, the Yuan-Ku Alliance's camp instantly erupted in unparalleled cheers, thunderous cheers. In contrast, the Heavenly Court's immortals in the sky were as black as squid. They couldn't understand how Lu Dongbin had died just like that. Your Majesty, the Jade Emperor, we've already won 2 out of 3 rounds. You should fulfill your promise and make us celestial emperors of the Heavenly Court. The 6 great sages said joyfully to the Jade Emperor. What if I say no? The Jade Emperor's face was livid. At the same time, he secretly made a gesture to Emperor Qing, who was beside him. He wanted to tell Emperor Qing to prepare for war immediately. Once the Jade Emperor gave the order, these bandits would be killed immediately. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.